lines. And the thing that strikes you as you read right through the commonality is that human beings actually don't really change very much. The way we do things. The only fundamental difference is the times. For instance, this is the information age. So a lot of information is ready at the touch of your finger. In a previous time, similar things may have happened, but you didn't get to hear of it until probably much later. Yes.
Till it's documented later.
Yeah, so history provides you with that information. Yes.
Ndu?
Yeah.
How was yours?
Sorry?
How was your weekend?
Fine, thank you.
No parties?
No. Law-abiding
Good.
president of the country.
You're a good person.
Thank you. And how are you, Eric?
Look at you. Good person. Good girl.
Mwalimu teacher has spoken.
I will take those accolades.
Mine was good as well.
Good?
Indoors.
Actually, Eric, how was yours?
Indoors. Completely indoors.
You're behaving yourself?
Oh, yes.
Good.
Totally. Right. So let's look at the figures from around the world. COVID-19 in numbers.
Yeah, we're looking at some heightened numbers. 150,000 shy of 2 million. 1.853155. These are the cases in the world so far, with 114,247 deaths. 423,625 recovered. And if we're going to look at the hotspots once again, if we look directly at the United States, they've gotten to a point where they're counting 2,000 plus deaths per day. Country with 560,433 infected cases, total cases rather. And unfortunately, 22,115 deaths. And if taken in the numbers, they're, looking at 2,000 deaths a day.
That's high.
That's very high. The second country coming in after that is Spain, but still so far behind the US with 166,831. But the worrying thing here that we see in Spain is that at the beginning of last week, 7 days from today, Spain was at 120,000 cases. Today, they're at 166,000 cases. Italy is at 150.
How many deaths in Spain?
17,209. Italy at 156,363 cases with 19,899. The interesting thing here, though, is that the US with 500,000 cases has 22,000 deaths. Italy with 156,000 cases has almost the same number of deaths. So, I mean, it's looking at the numbers again, the numbers are increasing in Germany, but with the home care that we've talked about, 127,000 cases and 3,000 deaths. China, again, 82,000 cases with 3,000 deaths. And so keep going down the line, and we see that more and more countries now. Sweden, for example, has popped up with 10,483 cases, but with 899 deaths. Japan also with 7,370 cases. We saw a huge spike. So they got an additional 2,500 cases over the last 2 weeks. And this is now why they called a state of emergency in Japan and said, absolutely not, we're not going to allow this going this way.
Africa-wise?
Right, so looking at, we still look at the northern African countries with quite a number, still in the thousands. Egypt has jumped to 2,065. Morocco still at 1.6. That's 1,600. Same thing around that area with Algeria almost at 2,000 as well, with 1,914 cases. Cameroon has 820 cases now, if you want to come down into West Africa. Tunisia still up in the north, 707 cases. They've done an interesting thing there as well, where they've gone into complete lockdown in the country. Ghana, 566 cases. They're in the third week of lockdown. It's been extended. Niger at 529 cases. Burkina at 497 cases. Coming to Nigeria, 323 cases and 10 deaths. Senegal at 280 cases. Guinea at 250 cases. DRC at 234 cases. But they have a little bit of a more worrying problem now with the second Ebola death in the last 1 week, whereby just 5 weeks ago they had celebrated the last case. And now they're probably dealing for them something a little bit more serious than COVID-19.
Yeah.
Kenya
South
had
Africa?
197 cases. Just give me a minute. As we look for South Africa, South Africa is up there with 1,000 plus cases. Just a second.
Tested positive?
Yes.
1,400.
Yes. So the deaths we had seen, South Africa cases tested positive, 2,173 cases
Gone up, huh?
with 25 deaths.
Wow.
And they're still in a state of lockdown.
It would be
Which has
interesting
been
to know,
extended.
in our neighborhood, for example, Tanzania, where President John Magufuli still insists no lockdown. Just saying churches are still open.
People are going about their business as usual.
Everything is as usual. How many cases do we have in Tanzania?
Okay, let's find that in just a bit. As just to confirm, Tanzania has 32 cases and 3 deaths.
Still at 32 cases and 3 deaths.
And business as usual there.
And how many have they tested?
That's a good question. We don't know what kind of testing they have going on every day. If they're testing as rigorously as other countries are at this point, we don't know. But I mean, the insistence by the president to say, let's go on with our lives as usual. We're not going to do any of this business.
We'll deal with this.
We'll
Just
deal with it as we
do the
come.
basics. Wash your hands. And that's all the basics that he's insisting on, because he was speaking at a church service and the church was as full.
Yep.
No social distancing at all in the church.
No problem.
And Magufuli is saying, well, let's just observe the basics. Let's just wash our hands, but let's continue with our lives.
Interesting also, Botswana up until last week had 0 cases. And then they stepped in with 6 cases. Now they're at 13 and 1 death. And they're in a state of complete lockdown. So it'll be interesting to see what the numbers are this week. Last week, we've come back to the United States. Last week, the U.S. Surgeon General said that last week was going to be the worst week in terms of spiking, and they would probably reach a plateau. But unfortunately, they have not. And if anything, there's been an increase towards the end of the week of the number of cases found and the deaths, because in 3 days they recorded an 150,000 positive cases in 3 days between Wednesday and Saturday. So I mean, they've pushed it now, according to Fauci, this week now. They're likely to see it getting worse this week, despite their predictions for last week. So for them, every week that comes seems to be the worst week.
There's something about predictions and the actual reality. You actually can't predict very accurately. And you cannot take the numbers and the processes in other countries and assume that yours will also follow the same pattern.
Yeah.
It may, but the likelihood that it may not is also there. Consider, for instance, that one of the things that South Africa is being praised for is that they're slowly building up to a capacity of being able to probably test up to 30,000 people a day. As of the 3rd of this month, they had tested, for 7,000 people? So now, the truth about testing is this. The more people you test, the more positives you're likely to come across.
Yep.
This is the thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the more stringent you are in understanding this, the more likely you are to understand the cause of death. Because remember, deaths that were caused by the diseases didn't go on holiday. They are still there.
They're still there.
Yeah,
People are still dying.
Look at DRC, for example. They thought they were done with this Ebola business. And then we saw a death. And this is because we didn't see somebody having contracted the Ebola virus. We saw somebody dying.
Yes.
So they've had it for a minute, right? And then we don't know whom else would have been infected with this. So, I mean, now they're dealing with... So, in this case, guess what? COVID-19 then aside, they're going to deal with this thing that has been ravaging the country again in a second wave since 2018, which they thought they were done with. But
precisely. Remember, these viruses also mutate. And mutating meaning you won't be able to recognize until it rears its head again. Now, China is also beginning to experience a second wave. They are saying it's coming from outside, but again, that has to be questioned. Because remember, not everyone who was infected by the virus exhibited these signs that we keep talking about. They were not coughing. There was no shortness of breath, upper respiratory disease. None of these. They were fine, yes. And that's what happens. You are fine, and then the new and improved.
It comes in.
It comes back yet again. Why is it that, for instance, in this country, I mean, this question was once asked. I remember I was at a meeting with ethical review boards, and the question was asked about these malarial investigations, and why did they never end? They were told, actually, we would be happy if they ended, but the parasite mutates. And also, we don't help the situation very much because, one, with all this medication we keep taking, remember, mosquito draws blood from you.
Yep.
So if your blood already has medicine in it, what you don't realize you're doing is you are providing that mosquito with ammunition. It now adapts that medication. So the next time it bites you, it's not going to bite you, or whatever it's going to inject into your body will not be the same as
It'll be a different one.
It'll be different. It'll be changed, improved, new. So you have to keep changing it. And then there's also the issue of the environment. This climate change, people keep saying is nonsensical. And yet it's true, it's before you, and people keep saying it's not.
Yeah.
That also changes many things. In fact, there are those who argue that if you look at, say, the flooding situation we're having in the country, it has nothing to do with just the normal flooding. This has to do with climate change, and it's a big seasonal change. These are things that appear after a long period of time. Yes.
Of course, the climate change people have to come and claim credit for everything. Let's look at today's proverb.
Today's proverb. Knowledge without wisdom is like water in the sand. This is a Guinean. Is it pronounced Guinea? Country of Guinea? Guinean?
Yeah.
Yes, Guinea. Yes, it's a Guinean saying. You must give.
Water without what?
No, it's not water. We begin with the knowledge, then we get to water. Knowledge without wisdom is like water in the sand.
Oh, Lord, Eric.
It's like water in the sand or sand in water.
It's like water in the sand.
Explain that bit.
If you look at what the sand does, any water that is poured on sand, it's absorbed so quickly. For a second, you think it was a mirage, that there was no water at all. It disappears. The truth is, it doesn't really disappear. Because of the way sand is porous. So it actually it seeps in and it's sucked in. So before long, you're just back to square one. You don't even seem to notice there was anything. Now, what this saying seems to be implying, remember, we also have a Swahili saying, akili ni mali.
Yes.
Okay? Some people say wisdom is wealth. And there are many, many African countries that have similar sayings. Okay? Some say that a man who uses force is afraid of reasoning. Again, it points to, wisdom. Wisdom is the appropriate and applicable and useful utilization of knowledge. Now, if you have a lot of information, but you don't put it to good use, all right? It's like, remember we keep talking about the resources that we have in this country, and we begin with human resource. It is useless having all that human resource if you don't put it to good use. It is completely useless. If it cannot materialize into a form that clearly benefits the citizenry of this country, and citizenry, I mean everyone, that everyone can benefit from it in one way or the other, then it might as well not be there, because of what use is it?
True.
Yes.
It's like water in the sand.
It is like water in the sand.
Guineans. That's a good one. It's 16 minutes after 6. This is the situation, Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a look at the weather. And then we start taking a look at the newspaper headlines, what's happened over the weekend and what's been covered today. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
We're looking at a mostly cloudy morning
The
in
weather.
Nairobi at 17 degrees. Chances of showers pretty high for early parts of the morning, highs of 24 and lows of 16. Nakuru is at 16 degrees and mostly cloudy this morning as well. Showers expected in the afternoon with highs of 25 and lows of 15. Nyeri is cloudy this morning. Thunderstorms expected for the afternoon, highs of 23 and lows of 16. Eldoret at 14 degrees is clear this morning. That will not be the case in the afternoon with thunderstorms, highs of 23 and lows of 14. 21 degrees in Kisumu and is mostly cloudy. Thunderstorms forecasted for the afternoon, highs of 27 and lows of 20. It's 26 degrees and mostly cloudy in Malindi. Showers expected in the afternoon, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Cloudy skies in Mombasa and will experience showers in the afternoon with highs of 31 and lows of 26. Stepping out into East Africa, where it's cloudy conditions as well as in Kampala, and showers expected in the afternoon, highs of 25 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam is showers already at 24 degrees, thunderstorms to follow with highs of 28 and lows of 24. In Johannesburg, it's 15 degrees and clear skies all through the day, highs of 24 and lows of 14. Lagos is 28 degrees this morning and clear skies all through, highs of 34 and lows of 26. Take a look into New York at 14 degrees. It's clear skies. Showers expected for the afternoon, though. Highs of 16 and lows of 13. Paris is clear skies all through at 14 degrees. Highs of 19, but getting to a chilly low of 4. And finally, London at 9 degrees. Highs of 12 and lows of 4, and partly cloudy conditions throughout the day.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
2 minutes after 6. Let's take a look at the headlines. What do you have?
All right, to start on the front page of the Nation, virus. Kenya faces a tough second month. Make or break period. Kenyans could be in for a rude shock if infection and mortality patterns mirror those of countries like the US and Spain, which started off with a few confirmed cases before witnessing an explosion. Of course, this is coverage that goes from page 2 through to 10, and I think it's raising fears once again. But if we're going to go by the science of it, I think if we're looking at Kenya specifically, Kenya just passed that week, that critical third week where we saw things happening in Spain. The same thing happened in Italy. The same thing then happened in the UK and in the US, when from the time they experienced the first case and by the time they got to the third case, they had an explosion in terms of by the thousands of cases. Kenya still at 194. This is where we are by getting into the fourth week now since the first infection was confirmed. So if that is what they're going by, I think Kenya now has passed. If the timing is what they're going by, then Kenya has passed that spot. However, if they're going by now introducing more rapid testing, then it could be the case that, yes, we're going to a week where we'd see a lot more. Almost 6,000 people in Kenya have been tested so far, and they want to continue with this, whereby Kemri, even with the test kits now that they've proposed, will probably see up to 10,000 people being tested per day. Public now being the suggestion that members of the public would be tested over time. But now to look at what Kenya could face in the near future is that, more cases will be found with this testing.
Yeah.
And that is what we're looking at now. Truth, lies. There's so many things that are going on. People have been buried under the dead of night, and maybe you'll look into that story later. Truth, lies behind herbal remedies for COVID-19, looking at how old people could perpetuate fake news. So if we look at now this second month, is that the country could be facing its toughest month yet if infections and mortality patterns mirror those of some of the worst affected countries. By the end of the first month yesterday, the country had recorded a total of 197 confirmed cases, 8 deaths and 25 recoveries. While the numbers appear low, data from the World Health Organization and the Johns Hopkins University of Medicine Coronavirus Research Center reveals that the reported cases of some of the worst hit countries in the first month were way fewer than Kenya's, according to that data.
Yep.
What is more worrying is the fact that graphs for the worst countries spiked in the second month, the majority from day 45 of the first case. The highest confirmed corona infection cases so far have been reported in the US, Spain, Italy, France, Germany, China, the UK, Iran, and Turkey. While the first case in the US was reported on the 23rd of January, 51 days before the first case was reported in Kenya, only 53 coronavirus cases were confirmed and reported by Washington within the first month. Since then, the US has reported 526, but according to, this was, I'm sure by the time Nation was going to press, but the number that we're seeing now out of the United States is 560,000. So going by those numbers, what we're being told is that...
let's prepare. This could be
ready.
This could be a bad one. The nation also takes a look at the blunders and failures of other countries, starting with the US, where, well, a story in the New York Times published on Saturday shows that President Trump was warned about the potential for a pandemic, but that internal divisions in his administration, lack of planning, and his faith in his own instincts led to a halting response. He repeatedly played down the seriousness of the virus and focused on other issues, mainly the November presidential election. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, perhaps the only head of government in the West who has so far contracted the disease until he was taken ill, he had faced criticism, just like Trump, for not taking the pandemic seriously enough. Throughout the time the pandemic has ravaged the UK, there have been concerns about the message that he has personally given out. Remember, he was talking about, you can shake hands. I've been shaking hands of everybody's hands.
And then you find yourself in ICU.
And then there he was in ICU. Italy is paying the price of the early mixed messages by scientists and politicians. The people who have died in staggering numbers recently were mostly infected during the confusion after the country reported its first case of the lethal virus. Remember, you were even speaking to somebody in Milan, in Rome, the other day, and he was telling
Marco was his name.
Marco, yeah. Initially, we were just having back and forth from politicians and the medics. Spain as well. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has faced criticism for not prohibiting mass gatherings sooner and for not stockpiling medical equipment as soon as the number of COVID-19 cases reached several hundred in northern Italy in late February.
Remember, a lot of these criticisms are with hindsight. These are countries that have had cases of influenza before. The truth of the matter is the experience that people garner any knowledge from is something that is in the past.
Yeah.
And if they went by what they knew in the past, then everything that they're doing, if you look at them critically, you cannot say that they underreacted. You see,
I think we can say that, CT.
why can you say that? Explain.
Because by this time, by the time we're talking about now, the Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez of Spain, he has already seen what has happened in China. He's already seen what has happened in Italy. He has already heard what the WHO has said. This is different. This is an emergency of international concern. This is a pandemic. Already you've been warned. So you already have all this information.
Yes.
And you've already been told that this is unlike the others that you've dealt with.
Yes.
The other flus that you've dealt with.
Yes.
This one is more, is highly contagious. Is more highly contagious.
Yes, it is.
Prepare yourself better.
Yes, it is. But in the experience, remember, that is what they're being told. When was the last time in the experience that they dealt with something similar? Remember, bird flu, similar story. You know this thing can get to you. Swine flu, you know this thing can get to you. What you're calling SARS. This has been the story of the last century, has it not been? Now, that is the experience they have had. Pause for a second and ask yourself, what is this pandemic-like condition that they have had to grapple with within the last 100 years? You'll be hard-pressed to actually find something that is similar, except what we now call the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
Okay? So, in that period of time, they've had issues, yes, but nothing of this sort. Warnings have been given in the past, but nothing actually came to being. If we pause and look at the Scandinavian countries, they more or less were behaving exactly the same way Spain was behaving. They were not rushing around and buying masks and doing this and doing the other.
Yet they were being told.
Yes.
Yet they were being cautioned.
Yes. The point I'm making is, it isn't that they underreacted. These people, given the knowledge they had and the experience they've had with these things, they thought that this is something they could weather like they'd weathered the others. This is what I'm trying to say. It's just that this one was not anything like anything they've ever faced before. Now, it took the disaster that is unfolding before our very eyes them to realize, goodness gracious me,
They've been caught out.
Yes,
But that's what I'm saying, CT. Yes, it's we cannot say that they did not underreact. They underreacted.
that's what I'm saying. With hindsight,
we
they
can
did.
explain it.
The underreaction was fueled by the fact that whatever they had seen in the past didn't really give them cause
and which
for
is wrong because
concern.
they were, at the same time they were being given examples of this is happening to your neighbor. You can see what's happening to your neighbor. Because my house has never caught fire, I'm seeing houses down the road are on fire. I'm just thinking, well, yeah, I'll not get my things out of the house. You can't say that because I've never
Eric,
experienced
what you're saying is absolutely true and logical, but this is now with hindsight, this wisdom that we have, and it has clarity. Look, DRC, we knew Ebola done with. Reality, is it done with? No. So again, you cannot say that the DRC or the government of the DRC or the health ministry of the DRC were not prepared. Every sign, every indication was that they had defeated the disease. But
The world rejoiced with DRC.
Yes,
The world rejoiced. Yeah.
Then suddenly you have this situation before you. All I'm saying is that with hindsight, we tend to be wiser.
Unfortunately, this is the thing. The unfortunate thing is that you must, for most cases, you must go through a disadvantage in order to gain this wisdom. You had to have been down to be able to say, all right, in the future, I'm going to react this way. It's very rare that you would look at something and say, okay, I see this thing coming, I'm going to act immediately. The only reason you would be able to do that is if in the past you've gone through a sticky situation. Unfortunately, that's just how it works.
Remember, we were discussing earlier on how it is that all manner of conspiracy theorists and people who have the weirdest of ideas have suddenly sprung up and explaining all sorts of things. And one leaning that the West has is to blame China. And I'm thinking, what on earth do you mean, blame China? Some are even going far as to say this thing was manufactured in China and then exported. And you're thinking, oh goodness, it has reached that degree. But if you look at China, and in the last, say, even just 30 is a long time, 20 years, 10 years, the sort of pandemic-like situations they have had to deal with.
Swine flu.
Yeah, you'd be cautious. You have something of that sort. You're not going to jump up and suddenly declare this until you're certain what it is. But if you are left toward leaning and you do not want to consider all these things, you will say they knew. Yes, they
I think
knew.
maybe I'm not getting what you're saying, City, but I'm hearing, like you're saying, that some of these countries, especially in the West, in Europe, did not underprepare. And I'm thinking they did underprepare.
No.
They had the benefit of seeing what was happening in Asia. If you tell me China was underprepared, yes. If you tell me Japan and South Korea were underprepared and the countries around there, yes.
Eric,
Spain,
we're speaking
Italy,
as what you call cross purposes. We're not disagreeing. I am simply saying that the wisdom that we now have, the understanding, is with hindsight. All these flus, all these pandemics that we speak of, were mostly sequestered in Asia. They never really came to the West.
So there was no reason for them to think it was going to come
Yeah, it was going to be different.
There was all reason for
historically,
them.
no. Historically, things like that didn't ever come.
They didn't quite get to the
historically
West.
they
Yeah.
didn't, but you're watching what is happening in those countries.
Even with the
And
others,
then
Eric,
you
they were
get,
watching.
you get your first, you get your 10th, you get your 20th case, and you're still not doing anything. You can see your neighbor, what your neighbor is going
But
through,
what happened
and you're
with
still not
right,
doing
sure,
anything.
But Eric, what happened with many countries, and not just even those neighbors? What happened with many countries?
All of them were
At the
underprepared. The
very
point is
beginning.
underpreparedness.
But why?
That's it. Politicians. We spoke with the governor of Laikipia the other day, and he was telling us government is finding it so hard to move from how they behave. It's just that difficulty in understanding that, you know what, we need to do something different. This is how we've always done our things. And you're being told, this is not one of your things. No, this is how we've always done our things.
The governor was being polite. If you're talking about our government, they are wondering how they can squeeze something. Government machinery is in place. The things that they need to do is known. Why then must it take the longest time for this straightforward thing to be done?
Same thing as what was happening in these other countries. Just politicians and them not wanting to make decisions. 35 minutes after 6, that's 25 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's take a look at traffic shortly.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
It is Monday morning, however, it's still a holiday, so for many people not going to be out on the streets today. From what we can see, many of the roads open and clear with no traffic whatsoever. There was an accident, however, on the southern bypass last night, and that has not been moved, heading towards Kikuyu. That has not been moved, so if you're on that road, you want to approach with caution because the vehicles, for some crazy reason, are still there. So take it easy once you're getting in there. Like we said, not much happening on the roads this morning. Once it does build up, we'll be here to let you know what it looks like. Incidents or accidents, let us know what you see so we can spread the word. How can you reach us? Spice FMKE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice.
This is the case in Brazil, right? So the governors of the various states in Brazil have imposed quarantine measures and restricted travel and movement. The president, Jair Bolsonaro, comes out and says, come on, people, you're overreacting. It's raining. We're going to get wet. Some people are going to drown in the rain.
With 22,318 cases and already 1,230 deaths.
There you go. And the president is still saying, come, it's a passing cloud, so to speak. It's raining. We're going to get wet. Some people will die because of getting wet. Some people will drown. And then the rest of us will live.
I guess on that point, I do agree with you, Eric, in this sense, is that I think we have some cases where, look, we're going to tighten this belt and we're going to keep it tight for the duration of this thing to make sure that we don't have any more. And we're not just talking about here in Kenya, other cases, other places as well. Over the weekend, some governors in Nigeria said, oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to raise the lockdown. We're going to raise stringent measures so that people can go and celebrate for Easter. And I thought to myself, what on earth is going on here? Did COVID send a message to federal government and say, I'm waiting.
There's a weekend break.
Yeah. So I will not infect anybody else until Tuesday. I mean, come on. What are we talking about? So really, when we do things like this, then you ask yourself the question, are we taking these numbers seriously? However, I do think, though, that there's an attitude generally that you're not going to see in other parts of the world the high numbers that you're seeing in some parts of Western Europe and in the Western Hemisphere. Because nobody on the African continent, for example, has, apart from the North African countries and the southern South Africa, has passed, has gone beyond 10,000 cases, has gone beyond 5,000 cases, has even crossed 2,500 cases. For the extreme, we see, Algeria and Morocco and Egypt coming close to 2,000. Egypt having crossed 2,000, South Africa crossed 2,000. So that could be the thing. But then some countries are not taking, South Africa, for example, lockdown. No, we're still there. Yeah, but then you have the cases in Nigeria, 200 and something cases and there's 300 and something cases, and they're still saying, okay, for Easter we'll take a break on these measures.
Take a break over Easter.
And you guys can enjoy, so you can be with your families, and then Tuesday we'll go back. I mean,
Bolsonaro had issues long before coronavirus.
He did. Yeah, so I mean, here there was he already.
He seems to have a talent for putting his foot in it.
Completely.
Completely. If it isn't some racial slur, if it isn't some completely right-wing idea that doesn't resonate with the rest of the country.
Yeah.
So in fact, if you want to understand Bolsonaro, it isn't that difficult. Understand Trump.
Same fellow.
They seem to be kindred spirits. They have many similarities.
Just look at world leaders then.
With the
current crop.
With the coronavirus, Eric, what I seem to see, no one really knows what's going on. And no one really knows what to do. The best people are doing is to try and cope with what they have, and some people are doing a better job of it. For instance, South Africa, we are praising it for being very strong about it, but at the same time, you'll be told, man, the way the army and the police are handling people, goodness gracious me.
Civil liberties and rights come now into play.
Out of the question, some people have been shot, some have been manhandled, some have been beaten to near death. Then they tell you, yes, but the testings are working fine, and people are beginning to understand quarantine, and they're beginning to understand social distancing. So, on the one hand, you can say they're succeeding, but
the message is getting home.
Yes, but at what cost?
The spread of coronavirus is being halted.
At what cost?
At the cost of those who do not listen.
So,
Which for many people will say it's okay.
yes,
They're endangering the lives of others.
Yeah. So
You see,
crack
If you want
down.
to die, you die alone. All right. So let's
No,
help
don't-
you.
Don't drag the rest
Let's
of us
help you
into
to die. Go.
you see, this is how you see it. The efforts that are being made by different governments around the world and what the success rate is. So what do we do? Do we measure success rate purely by the numbers dropping, people adhering to the norms that have been accepted as being the best ways of ensuring you contain the virus? Or do you look at the social ramifications of the
If
actions?
your sole aim is to fight corona, then I would go with number one. That we're looking at all these other things be damned. So civil liberties,
For now.
human rights, this, that, the other thing, doesn't come into play. What we're trying to do is fight this corona. We're trying to reduce the number of infections. We're trying to have 0 deaths if possible, or at least limit the number of deaths that would occur as a result.
And spare
Stop the
our health
spread,
system.
spare our health system. Make sure. I mean, if that is the end goal, then yes, yeah. It
You know,
sounds harsh. It sounds difficult, but hey,
But actually, even let's question this. Why is it even harsh?
I mean, it doesn't. If that's what we're going to do, that's what we're going to do.
We have you see, if for instance one of our neighboring countries had declared war on us, and they were using biological warfare, say in Kilifi, and they're using biological warfare in Nairobi, and you could see the numbers who've been infected by the biological warfare, would we complain if the government said, you know something, we are enforcing a curfew on the whole country because of this? We wouldn't have complained.
Nope.
No.
But the coronavirus presents the same sort of threat.
What if you actually saw that some people are walking out up and about wearing the uniform of the enemy country?
Yes. What would you do?
What do you do with them? Oh, no, you're Kenyan. It's just the uniform you're
No.
wearing. I mean, you wore the
Your
wrong
being
uniform
Kenyan will be
today.
asked later.
You wore the wrong uniform today. No.
No, they'll deal with you and
Dealing
then
with
ask you later.
You are collaborating with the enemy, because that's what these people who are, flouting the curfew and all these rules are. They are collaborating with the enemy.
All these people.
We are
this
at
is the
war.
thing. All these people who still wake up or still, get up from their slumber and go and have parties. All those people who go and congregate to have Easter, birthday, whatever. You're right. They are corona as well. They are the ones that we should be fighting as well.
Yep.
Because what does it take for you to understand?
Traitors.
Come on. I would agree.
Now, if grown-ups, civil servants, people in offices of good standing, then you want to blame teenagers for doing the stupid things they're
Imagine.
doing? No.
And adults
Can you
are
really
doing
blame?
the same
Can you really
thing.
blame
Adults in positions of authority.
in positions of authority who should be the harbingers of this to say that we will lead by example? We will lead by example. That you should be able to look to a leader and say, this is the person that I should emulate because of their habit, because of their practice. Then you have magistrates.
Do you know,
jumping
tongue in
about,
cheek, just
members
how
of parliament.
do you know how
partying.
how accurate you actually are? They are leading by example.
They are.
Yes, they are. And this is the example that young people have been following. These examples of impunity. We're talking about the COVID-19 really.
It's complete impunity.
Exactly.
Yes,
And I'd like to
COVID-19.
follow up. The thing is, we need to follow up these cases and see, all right, so we know
How do
so
they-
and so
so-
was arrested,
okay.
so and so. What's the end of this?
Yes. What happened to them?
Yes.
After, okay, they were taken to quarantine. We understand.
14 days,
And then
yeah.
what happened?
And then what?
Because they broke the law.
Have they actually even been taken to quarantine?
We don't know really.
This is what we have been told.
We don't
That's
know.
it.
No. We know they were arrested.
Where
Sorry,
they ended
we
up?
know they were put in that police vehicle. Let's talk about
What we had been told was, yes, put in that vehicle, and the next step was that they would be taken to government-mandated quarantine for the next 14 days. Whether that has actually happened or not is what we don't know.
We'll talk about that impunity
As
later
we
on
go
in the
on.
show, right? Remember, you can get the Standard newspaper just before we go to look at the Standard headline this morning. Get the Standard newspaper delivered right to your doorstep wherever you are. This is, if you are in the Nairobi metropolitan region, this is the number to call, 0702 905 941. That's 0702 905 941. If you're in Mount Kenya and the coast, call Benson Gitao on 0702 905 780. 0702 905 780. In Rift Valley and the Nyanza regions, Mark Odhiambo 0776 756 107. That's 0776 756 107. Rift Valley and the Nyanza region. That's where the bold and factual newspaper can be delivered right to your doorstep. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. When we come back out of this short break, we'll look at the traitors. That's a headline on the Standard this morning. Lords of betrayal. The traitors. And it gives you a very nice photo of the inside chambers of Parliament. There has been total lack of leadership from MPs since the coronavirus outbreak. Not a single legislative initiative to cushion Kenyans. No slashing of their hefty salaries as the disease wipes out jobs and businesses. Kenyans, we are truly on our own. If you had not thought about that, then just think about it, all right? All over that, we'll come back shortly and tell you who the traitors are, how many they are, how much we pay them, what we expect them to do, and what they're doing about it. Good morning. Situation with Eric Latif, Nduoko, and CT Muga. CT, tell us about the traitors.
You know, let's go to the basics and ask ourselves, what really is the meaning of a traitor? Who is a traitor?
Judas.
Okay.
Now that we're in Easter period.
You start off with a common cause that people believe in, and pursuant to this, someone goes and abrogates it. Someone goes against it and does the complete opposite of what is expected of them. If you then move away from the goals of the ideal, instead of simply saying that you've departed from it, you'll be called a traitor. But the term is often used with reference to loyalty. Loyalty to a government, loyalty to an institution, again, loyalty to a cause. And it's not just moving away from it, but joining the forces that were against it. If you just move away, you may not be a traitor. You may be called someone who's abandoned it. To understand it, you need to look at independence and the people who are considered reactionary. Now, reactionary doesn't mean somebody who reacts. Reactionary is somebody who supports a regime that is seen to be oppressing the masses, for instance. Like people who are referred to as home guards were considered reactionary. People who worked within the civil service of the colonial government were considered reactionary. Others considered them traitors. Now, in this particular sense, we take the view that our politicians have a very clear mandate. Very, very clear. It's even enshrined in the Constitution. There's no ifs and buts about it. They are supposed to be our representatives, meaning what is of our interest, the things that will bring about furtherance of our lives to a better platform. That duty is theirs.
It's a paramount duty.
That is what we elect them for. Now, unfortunately, they have done anything but. Everything that they have done. Now, why it's being called the traitors? We are at a time in our lives and in our history when these people who are representatives are supposed to do the uttermost to ensure. Remember, they have the mandate of passing laws. Please remember that. We have committees within Parliament whose duty is to ensure funds are allocated in a certain way. If it can't be done legislatively, they're supposed to bring forth legislation that would enable it. Anything and everything that is supposed to make the lives of the citizenry better is actually really in their hands. And unfortunately, during this time of calamity, where they are most required to be seen, to be acting, and to actually act, they're not only silent, they're absent.
Silent and absent.
Yes.
I mean,
So remember the analogy Eric was giving about an invading army and you wearing the uniforms. They've joined the enemy.
They're right there.
They've joined our enemies because in their inactivity is tantamount to acting against us. So,
And that's what the Standard now is saying. Story by Wilfred Ayaga and Rollins Otieno. MPs are manufacturing all manner of reasons to protect their hefty perks and avoid taking responsibility for directing government response to the coronavirus pandemic. While other parliamentarians are coming up with measures to cushion people and businesses from being wiped out by the disease, Kenyan lawmakers have stood out for their inertia. Since the first case on March 13th, save for a few who have come out to make donations in their individual capacities, majority of MPs are remaining in the shadows of their pampered lifestyles.
so then you ask yourself, who are they representing? Or
So
who
they were
are they
supposed to come
fighting
back.
for?
Remember, they were supposed to come back for some special sittings last
Yes.
week, which they didn't. Now there's communication from the Speaker. They are going to be meeting today. Only 53 legislators out of 349 will transact business in Parliament when sittings resume today. Yesterday, the National Assembly Speaker, Justin Muturi, directed that any member who wishes to participate in any sittings must first register with him.
So you leave it up to them to make a decision.
Anybody
Do you
who
want
wants to
come?
participate,
Then you can let me know.
Please send me your name and number.
And I'll see how I can slot you,
you know,
in.
these committees we have in Parliament, they are supposed to actually oversee key functions of the government. Is that not so?
Yes.
So you would know in such a situation which committee to call in. Is that not
Budget
so?
Yes.
is clear.
Yes.
Health is
Health
very
is
clear.
clear.
Yes. Security
Trade is very clear.
Security, it's very
Security is
clear.
very clear.
So why have they not been summoned?
This is the question. Interestingly enough, when we talk about a kitty where you say Kenyans would essentially be helped, if the lawmakers were to take a 10% pay cut, just 10%.
Just 10% from their
Just
salary.
10%.
Each
just,
one of them.
Yes. The 416 MPs in both houses would contribute at least 29.5 million shillings monthly to the emergency kit. That's just 10%. And you'd have almost 30 million shillings that you could now use
That goes
to
into
buffer Kenyans. This amount is enough to buy 1.4 million masks for Kenyans hardest hit by COVID-19. Each of the 290 constituency representatives control an average of 137 million of the 39.8 billion allocated under the National Government Constituencies Development Fund in the 2019-2020 financial year. In times of crisis, interestingly enough, just like the government in reallocating expenditure, members of the National Assembly who sit tomorrow to consider the government's tax measures should as well explore channeling some of these resources to help deal with the crisis.
You can just basically just say, even if you need amendments to the CDF Act, to give powers directly to the MP to say, all right, all this money that we have in the account right now, which was earmarked for project A, B, C, let it go to health.
Look,
Let it sort out.
I'll tell
COVID
Kenyans
pandemic.
now, 2022 is coming. You will vote in new leaders, COVID
New.
or not. Hold on. You will vote. Okay, let's say it like this. You
will
will vote again.
You'll vote
Thank
again.
You will
yes.
vote again. All right? They are showing you today who they are. They are showing you how they will lead. They are showing you what they hold dear and what they hold important. They're showing you today. If they've never shown you before, this is the time they are showing you who they really are. And if I were you, I would believe them.
Is there a reason why the committees have not sat?
They don't want to.
Because committees,
Fear over
basically,
virus.
each committee can decide in the morning we are going to have the health committee sitting in the whole chamber so that we have social distancing. How many are they? Members of a committee are not more than 30. Sit.
Mind you, we saw the health committee sit when we were talking about the numbers from the Ministry of Health and whether they actually worked and whether they went through. It was a nice, moment where there were jokes and there was laughter. We've not seen them again.
They sat.
They sat and then they got
That
up
was
and
it.
went. We've not seen them again.
Since Mutahi Kagwe has become CS, we haven't seen that committee meeting.
I repeat it.
These are
They are
jokers.
showing you who they are. Believe them. Believe them.
Once you have seen a certain reality, please don't go into a denial lockdown and start pretending you didn't see it.
But there could be some reason. So let's hear what they're saying.
There
all right?
always are
Of course there's a
reasons.
reason.
The minority leader, that is Suba South MP John Mbadi, who is the chairman of ODM, says the question of a salary cut should be left to individual members to decide. Sufficient philanthropy. This is it, sufficient philanthropy. Mbadi argues that salary cuts may not do so much because some members are mobilizing funds for food donations to their constituents who are in dire need.
30
Because I'm already
million
contributing in
Words.
Mbadi,
Words.
in Suba South.
Words.
I'm removing my money,
I beg
so I don't need to
Words.
deduct my salary.
Words.
You're removing your money, but in a normal circumstance. Here we're talking about extraordinary circumstances where extra funding is needed, not to help your little constituency where it is that you operate from, but to help the entire country from potentially sinking. And we are saying in this point, we're not even 10%. Whereas you heard the president, okay, fine, we still pay his rent and pay for his vehicle and his fuel and all of that. But they're taking, 80% cuts, right? They're saying that the country could get 30 million shillings if you just gave up 10% to help the people. So if your mandate, if your care, your core business, your core responsibility is being seen here, the 10% should be a drop in the ocean.
Eric,
So
let me ask
listen.
the question.
Wait. The Public Accounts Committee chairman, Opio Wandai, says there cannot be only one approach. There must not be only one approach to this. MPs are already supporting their constituents directly. The other state and public officers have chosen to take a pay cut. Either way, the overall objective is being met.
Which
See,
is?
I'm giving my harambe.
What overall
So
objective?
Uhuru and Ruto have decided 80% pay cut. Me, I'm deciding I'm going to give my money directly to the people. We're doing the same thing. Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. says pay cuts alone may not yield much in the fight against the virus that has ravaged the global economy. Owing to many factors, the pay cut may not yield a significant amount. The Senate Business Committee approved a deduction of 200 million from its budget.
Well,
Unfortunately,
no.
they're seeing this as an
That is
individual
not a, that
cut.
is not a pay cut. Eh?
They're seeing this. The problem is they see this as an individual cut. But what we're talking about is cumulatively, what it would be able to do. That is what they need to look
His view
at.
is actually not wrong if you look at it against the broad scheme of things. But is it really the argument you want at such a time?
You don't want to say that. You don't.
Is that really an argument that you should put forward? Because it's essentially what you're coming out looking like. You don't think you should contribute.
That's
No.
what you're telling people. At the end of the day, you're saying,
you
you know
know
what? It's not really an option. But we're saying, of the many options that we have, which one have you been able to put your
Actually,
finger
the
on?
Senate, let me say this, the Senate Business Committee approved a deduction of 200 million from its budget for this purpose.
Yeah.
Said we have this budget, 200 million. Take 200 million from our budget.
Now, it still sounds like philanthropy here. It should not be like that.
No,
Listen,
should
this
be
is our money.
sacrifice.
It does not have to be.
Yeah.
Look, how many companies have written to their staff and
Their
said,
staff to say,
we are,
it's not a question.
it's
This
not
is
a
what we
tier
are doing.
negotiation,
wasn't public
whether it
participation.
works.
No.
This
This
is
is
it.
what is happening.
We,
Period.
because of where we are, 30%,
This is what we're going to do.
20%, KQ, 70% pay cut. Not a negotiation. We are the employers of these people.
If you have
We
any
tell them,
query,
That's
please
it,
visit the
yes,
HR
because,
department.
no, come on.
Erica, I think what you're discussing is the inability of our so-called leaders to actually move from the point of view where they understand their role in totality. They are actually our employees. President, downwards.
It's our money.
They are
Yes.
our employees, and they should be doing what we tell them we need.
Do you for you to say something like that? Do you realize in the last 2 weeks how many Kenyans have lost their jobs?
Yep. Do you realize that
do
we
you
are paying you
realize
for not going to
for
work?
not
This
going
month,
to work. You're sitting at home.
they're
You're
getting
not
a-
going to work. Then you want to open your mouth and talk about, I don't think it'll make a big dent. It will.
We continue with this conversation in the next hour.
Yeah, please, because I'm going to keep it on
Eh,
hold, but it's still hot.
Completely. City, take us to Guinea.
Ah, yes. Knowledge without wisdom is like water in the sand.
Knowledge without wisdom
It's
is like
water in the sand. Not very useful. You can't grow very much in the sand. And so
You don't even see it.
Yeah, you don't even see it.
So you have all this knowledge, but we can't see it.
So it's not being put productive use. So it might as well not be there.
This is a situation amidst Kenya's biggest conversation. Should MPs be made to take a pay cut by their employer, who is the taxpayer? This is a conversation that we'll be having in the next hour. 0719-012-600. Also join the conversation on our social media platforms. Spice FM KE on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock.
Right now, however, traffic, not much traffic on the roads this morning, and we know that it's a sleepy country this morning. Still Easter Monday, so a lot of people not out on the streets today. Not much going on, guys. If there is, we will be sure to let you know. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter, however, and we'll know what to spread the information on. But for now, it looks good wherever it is that you are.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin,
2 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is a situation in Kenya's biggest conversation. So we'll have this discussion about pay cuts in the public service, especially looking at the members of parliament.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It should be left to individual members to decide how much each wants to contribute to this kitty called the Emergency Response Fund, that is about helping Kenyan taxpayers who do not have money to pay tax anymore to go live their lives in these days of COVID-19. So we'll have this conversation in the next hour. In this hour, let's look at some of the big stories that are emerging, what COVID-19 is doing to us as a society.
One of the things that COVID-19 seems to be doing is completely forcing us to rethink our daily existence. If you were used to having a drink with your buddies in the evening after work, that one is gone.
Gone.
If you want to have a drink, have it virtually. If you were used to probably weekend traveling to the rural areas to visit, that is gone. Let's get to even more intimate social functions like burials and weddings. Because of the restrictions on the number of people who can actually attend such functions, the nature and the manner in which these functions can now be attended to has changed completely. But more significantly, if you look at even just the way you understand health matters and the way you understand hygiene, this one has completely been revolutionized. But of significance is, and this one I think is dawning on us slowly, is the way we look at our leaders. This thing has shown us a side of our leaders that we hoped we would not be able to see with such clarity. The hypocrisy that we have allowed ourselves to be dragged into, and the way we've allowed ourselves to lie to ourselves about the reality of things, that has also been removed. We are now being forced to face the stark reality of who we are, because when we look at the nakedness of our leaders, we're actually looking at ourselves.
If we go west a little bit, just on this part, in January, just 3 months ago, when the impeachment of U.S. President Donald Trump kind of went out the water, went out the window, it was not going to happen, because we were of the opinion, could be accepted in the United States, that people still saw this gentleman as a popular president, and the likelihood of him being impeached were, close to none, and that he would come out in November once again and be voted in as president. Enter COVID. And the likelihood of President Trump being president again in November is now close to none, just because of this one thing, whereby you're pussyfooting on action. Yes, today we're okay. Tomorrow we're likely to see more deaths. Today everything is all right. Tomorrow I'm not quite sure what's going on. We were never prepared for something like this. We have a famous speech of him saying, you know what? No one could have ever guessed something like this would ever happen on American soil. So yeah, we look at now the changes that have come about in leadership, whereby you would have thought that nobody could ever contest a certain leader. And you can see the decisions around something like this, the decisions around a pandemic, could bring into question seriously whether people would vote you in again as president, because you could not make a decision on something like this. It now sheds light on what you would make decisions about in the future. So yeah, leadership has been put to the test
completely,
here, big time. And then people are starting to think, and I hope even deeper, about the people that you will put into positions of power by your vote. To say that this time, when you have to look at the underbelly of things, that's the time that you actually see the truth. That is a time that you see the truth on whether you have a leader or you have somebody who will continue to do a dalliance with death around ideas. Whether you say that somebody can make a decision for the betterment, for the good of the people. It's around times of conflict. It's around times of trouble where you see whether somebody is a good leader or not. When everything is okay, nobody's asking questions about your leadership.
Are you seeing governments falling?
I am seeing individuals, who are sitting in positions that they've held for a very long time, falling as a result of their inaction or their indecisiveness in COVID times.
In COVID?
Absolutely.
Give me an example.
I just gave you a good one. Trump is not going back in November.
Is there going to be an election in November?
If there will be an election in November, we've seen the Democratic primaries already being postponed until further notice. We do not know when that will happen. Should there be a U.S. election, Trump will not be re-elected. Not even because of what he knows or does not know. His public view or his public show of his decisions, that enough has toppled
that could be a big one.
Faith that Americans had in him before.
I still think that Americans will elect him.
Oh, no.
I still think they will.
Omo, have you seen the way Americans are dying like flies?
I had seen the way people were even talking during the impeachment.
No, this one they talked about.
During impeachment, no one was dying.
Nobody was dying.
So they were just talking.
Yeah, even now.
Nobody saw.
People are dying now, yes.
Nobody saw the cracks in the system. Nobody would have ever thought that you would see America on its knees in the way it is now. Even Americans
governors will take a hit, a serious hit. Governors, the U.S. president may survive it.
I dare say that governors are where you would see the faith of their citizens now being strongly tested already, and they're performing. Look at what New York has done. Look at what Texas has done. Look at what California is trying to do. And we already said that, okay, yes, governors of states, they're gods with their own kind of rule. But in terms of the national government, the federal government, and what they've been able to do, unfortunately, through the mouthpiece of Donald Trump, failure is awash. Unfortunately.
What do you think will happen to the UK government that will survive?
Because of the fact that the man got sick.
Yep.
Look, because of the fact that the man got sick and recovered and was able to resonate with the people and say, look, guys, I'm here inside, literally, in this thing
and
with
I'm
you, and we're
the
fighting
NHS,
together.
And
the NHS has done such a fantastic job. I am alive. This is what he said, basically. I am alive because of the NHS. If not, I would have died. And we can see that the strength of a nation in one of the things it is founded is in that of its health system. The man went through the system, went to the hospital where you or I, if we lived in the UK, would have gone as well, was treated by the same doctors, not some special kind of treatment that you or I would have been treated by if we lived in that country. Okay? So chances of him being put back into a position of power are very high because he swam in the same waters as the people.
So Bojo survives. We are split on Trump.
Plays his last card.
Yeah, you guys are on Trump going, I'm still thinking Trump will survive this.
You haven't heard my views on that subject, have you? I mean, you heard Ndo's views.
Okay, what's your view on that?
With the politics, take the view that a day in politics can even be the equivalent of a year or 10 years.
Yeah.
Something can change between now and the elections. I would have said that right now, you would look at Trump's chances, you would think they're very dim. I would focus on the here and now.
Today.
I would not transport it into
Into
far into
November.
the future, because a lot can happen between now and then that could change, work in his favor or even work against it. And that is something that it doesn't matter how smart you are.
Or dumb.
You'll be pouring water in the sand. This one you cannot actually genuinely foresee because you don't know what you can juxtapose, you can argue, and you can. Remember, this is not the first time in the history of mankind that we are facing similar problems. We see this problem as a global problem right now simply because of the times we live in. We're in the information age. Something happens in one part of the country, remote part, the whole world knows it in an instant. Something we're not able to see before. In 1832, yes, I'm taking you that far back. It's important because it helps with understanding something like the French Revolution. Cholera struck Paris. 19,000 Parisians died. You think conspiracy theories came in the 20th, 19th, 21st century? No, they existed then. According to them, Louis, was it the 6th, 7th? Who was the emperor of France?
He was the fifth. Yeah.
They said this guy was poisoning his people. And yet cholera, it was not difficult to understand. Europe had experienced it before.
Yeah.
But events that then led after that, if you then look, you then understand how those many, many changes now began coming about. The point I'm trying to make is this. Many, many governments and countries have survived such pandemics. And if Trump survives, he won't be the first. But the very thing that often brings these people down is not something this big and widespread. No. It's usually a very, very silly mistake that he has overlooked.
Utterances even.
Utterances can be countered by others. And remember right now, if you are an American, you would like to believe the Chinese are the ones who brought this thing. And if you look at the narrative that is being spread by the leaders,
let's blame it on China.
So Trump is not going to be blamed for this. They're going to say, actually, Trump tried very hard, but the Chinese kept bringing this problem.
When he said the China virus, it was a very calculated
It was
statement.
well-timed and
very
timely.
calculated.
It stuck. Most Americans are not going to see this thing as something that probably even just their strain emanated from their country. If you begin to say such a thing, you will be the conspiracy theorist.
It's you who has a problem.
It's you who actually has a problem. You don't seem to understand the nature of these problems. The point I'm making here and do is this. The one thing that the 21st century has bequeathed us with is the ability to see the similarities or problems that you have right across the globe. Just when you think that you have a leader who you think is below the mark, you will find a leader and you realize, hey, we're
okay.
We're doing a little bit more all right.
Let's go easy on this guy of ours here. In case you're thinking you have a problem, you'll find an entire section of a country has been hit by a typhoon and people are homeless. You don't have such problems. So you say, hey, that's our problem.
Let's just keep quiet.
Let's get a perspective. But you see, by the same token, you're able to understand and judge standards and say, these fellows seem to have gotten it. And the reason why they've gotten it is they had these systems in place from the get-go. We are in peril and we're shaking because our systems have been eroded completely.
The very little that was there is in the shambles.
And that's what brings the question we were asking earlier on. So how is it that our systems have been eroded? They've been eroded because the people whom we tasked with ensuring that they were in place did not do their job. But this one we're going to be discussing in the next hour.
They left their station.
Oh no, some didn't even report.
completely absconded duty.
Yeah.
Directly. So governments will fall. I mean, life is changing.
Oh, it's changing rapidly.
A lot of things that are that we've always believed in. Somebody had written an article about globalization as one of the things that was happening very well. The world was a globalized village. Ensuring that manufacturing can happen 7,000 kilometers from your home and bringing stuff back home. Now, is that likely to be impacted?
Well, yeah. If you want to look at what countries then are able to do on their own, who would have thunk it, really? That you would have CS Betty Minor, or that you would have a group of students at Kenyatta University who actually would innovate and say, you know what? We can do this on our own. I remember a famous speech by the late retired President Moi, and he said, you know what? We need to have African solutions to African problems.
He said this many times.
Yeah, and I said to myself, you know what? And I remember writing a paper once at university, and I said, you know what? it is then possible that we can be the creators, we can be the innovators with what we have. It's not necessary then that our raw materials need to leave here and then go somewhere else and then we buy them back for exorbitant prices. It's possible that we can actually do things on our own. And then what did we see over the weekend? What have we seen coming out of Kitui? It's possible to have these things done here. And I think that's one of the things that we've been able to see very clearly.
Hand
with
sanitizers are being made, on a daily basis.
In the thousands of liters. In the thousands of liters.
Locally.
Masks are being made in Kitui. And then you have a group of students
you're thinking of Kitui.
at Kenyatta University who
Everywhere.
said, you know what?
Cottage industries
Springing up all over the place.
over the
People
landscape.
just making masks. So they're
Kemri
given
is telling
guidelines.
us-
You need this to have 3 layers.
Yeah.
3 layers. Here we go.
Jack Ma donated testing kits. Kemri is telling us, you know what? We can do this
can do this
rapid
thing.
result kit right here in the country. It's not for want of expertise. It's not for want of material. We have been able to do this all the time. It's coming to the fore
can do
that
this.
is
Cambridge has
possible.
had a production center for the longest time.
There you go. It
It's
can
a-
be done here.
This thing didn't come with COVID.
No, it didn't. But we've
always been
depend-
there.
It
but
didn't
we've
even
been-
come with HIV. It's been there.
It's been there, but we've been depending on the external for way too long. CS Betty Miner told us the other day, well, you know what? We can actually start to manufacture some of these things, and we've seen prototypes have been developed already. We can go. We ask ourselves, what has been stopping us? It was COVID that was required to kind of put a bullet in our butts to get going. Then maybe it was necessary for that to happen. And here you are.
But do you see us sustaining it?
This is the problem. Then I would say that would be the
Because
issue.
all these cottage
after
industries,
COVID,
the issue of
would they
cottage-
fall apart?
Yes. The issue of cottage industries, we've discussed it many times on this show, City. I mean, the issue of how we can develop our cottage industries and how they can be supported to grow big. Now, we are seeing them doing very well in terms of manufacturing of all this material that's required. The PPEs, the masks for the public, stuff for our medical workers. Everything is being locally produced.
All of a sudden.
Everything.
Oh, no. That's the point, really.
It's not all of a sudden.
No, that's precisely
The
it.
capacity has always
all of a
existed.
sudden it,
It
can
has-
come to the fore.
Yes.
It has never
All of
come
a
out
sudden,
before.
all of a sudden, government is buying from these local ones.
Realizing that you can. Realizing that you can actually buy local.
Because that's what is different.
You know, we've joked in this same studio and talked about, those containers that you put food in when you go to a restaurant for,
Yeah.
the glossy, shiny ones. They're
The
manufactured.
Those are-
takeaway packs.
Look,
No.
Oh, right,
huge
the
things that you
chafing
put-
dishes.
That's what they're called.
Yes.
Those ones, okay?
The ones with the thing here.
With the thing, the bottom to
Oh,
keep
your
heating the
descriptions
water.
are
and so forth.
fantastic, you guys.
Yeah, but that's we're describing it as it is, yes.
Carry on.
You put water and then you heat the water and then the heated water and it
Heats the
food.
food.
Yeah, heats the
Yes,
food.
that one. They're
Shaking.
manufactured locally. Do you know one of the things that the West has proven to be wonderful at, and then the Far Eastern countries are now taken over? It's looking at what others have done, copying it and making it better.
Yes.
Civilization, as we know, it didn't begin in Europe.
No, it didn't.
No.
They came and they found many African civilizations already carrying on. If you
No,
want to just
it's-
look at
No, they didn't find. Expansionists were Africans
Yes.
first. We were nearer to Europe than China.
Yes.
Okay? We were the expansionists. People like Hammurabi, when you hear these names, these people had kingdoms and civilizations long before.
even something as simple as the making of paper, that was right here on the
saying,
African continent.
When they went to these countries, they also took their civilizations with them. You talk of the Songhai kingdom. It was advanced. The things they did, the things they knew. It has long been established that modern mathematics, as we understand it, actually began on this continent. It's not as though it started elsewhere.
It did.
And to understand it, people have given the example of the pyramids and what have you. Then you go to Latin America and you find similar edifices and you realize, man, these people had some seriously advanced science. So what do the Westerners do? You find Lobsam and
Copy.
Nampa and some people saying, well, maybe people came from outer space. And no. Those things were done here, but they copied it. And they copied it well. And they integrated it into their own culture. And if you look at any of those Western societies that are very advanced, you'll find there's an infusion of very many cultures into their culture to make it that way. Then the Eastern part of the world came in, and they simply took what the West had, they'd buy it, they became the biggest buyers, and they simply copied it and improved on it.
Copy everything. Copy
They
paste.
didn't waste
Copy
their time
paste.
on doing the research and what have you. Just buy the finished product.
Yeah.
Buy the finished
then-
product and bring the fellows over here, give them a posh life, give them plush environment and
Now-
plush surroundings, and get them to continue
Let's
doing
take a
this
look at
thing.
weather, and then the conversation continues. Good morning. This is a situation room. We are broadcasting on 94.4 in Nairobi, also broadcasting to the world, www.spicefm.co.ke. Our live stream is up. Watch us on www.spicefm.co.ke or on Facebook, Spice FM KE, on Twitter, Spice FM KE. And we are also live streaming on YouTube. Spice FM KE is a channel. Good morning.
It's mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 18 degrees this morning, and high chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon, highs of 24 and lows of 16. Nakuru at 16 degrees is going to be mostly cloudy today. Thunderstorms expected in the afternoon, highs of 25 and lows of 15. It's cloudy in Nyeri this morning, a high chance of thunderstorms as well, highs of 23 and lows of 16. Eldoret at 14 degrees is clear skies this morning. Showers expected in the afternoon, highs of 23 and lows of 14. Cloudy conditions in Kisumu at 21 degrees is going to carry into an afternoon of showers and then thunderstorms scattered in the evening. 27 degrees the high and lows of 20. Malindi at 27 degrees is going to be mostly cloudy today, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Mombasa at 26 degrees is cloudy already, chance of showers very high, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Kampala at 20 degrees is light rain showers already and will carry on through most of the day, highs of 26 and lows of 20. Dar es Salaam at 24 degrees is already raining this morning. Thunderstorms will follow with highs of 28 and lows of 24. Johannesburg at 14 degrees is clear skies all through today. Some cloudy conditions later, highs of 24 and lows of 14. Finally, Lagos at 28 degrees is clear skies all through, highs of 34 and lows of 26.
Past 7 o'clock. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation in the room. My name is Eric Latif. We have Nduoko and CT Muga. Taking a look this hour at how our lives are changing because of COVID-19. In these days of COVID-19, a lot of what we know has changed, and we are wondering whether it will remain so even after COVID-19 goes, or even after we pass this huge wave of COVID-19 cases. Well, also, CT, Uhuru Kenyatta's two of the big four, is getting a huge boost. Health and manufacturing. Basically just getting all this limelight. Limelight has been shown on cottage industries, not the big manufacturing, just small-time manufacturing.
Isn't it interesting? You know, the word inadvertent comes to mind. One of the things that people who preferred to look at the Moi era as extremely dark and nothing else, what they failed to see that the one thing that stood out in the Moi era and which was really a bright light was something called education. And that education, the manifestation and the outcomes of it are seen in this one thing we keep talking about. It's called remittances. It is not possible to export labor unless that labor is actually trained.
Yes.
But all this began because President Moi promoted education as though it was the one thing he was determined to do at whatever cost. Universities increase, etc. Inadvertent. We now have a situation where we are benefiting from it. Now, look at manufacturing. Right now, cottage industries that had been struggling need not struggle anymore because there is a market for what they can produce. Now, imagine if it didn't exist. This Juakali industry we keep speaking of, the informal sector.
Yeah.
We are talking about Charity Ngilu's project of 30,000. Have we done the maths on what the Juakali sector is able to produce?
Right.
I don't know what the figures are, but I'm sure it is colossal. I know, for instance, if you go to the eastern part of this city, the Umojas and the Dawn Homes and what have you, you'll find small pockets of people who are tailors, and they have the associations.
Go to Jericho Market, actually.
Yes. If you do the maths, those people are approximately 2,000.
Yep.
So even if you do the maths and ask yourself, are they able to produce 10 masks a day? It's a joke per person. They're probably able to produce more. And that is Nairobi. What about Mombasa? They have a similar. What about Kisumu? What about all our towns? So you suddenly find that almost every county has within it and has had for a long time the capacity to do certain things. So you're right.
Cottage industries. And this could be a way of us quickly recovering from the economic hit of COVID-19.
Actually, it is.
If we focused our eyes onto, all right, so our cottage industries, what kind of support will they require? And just get them to start producing.
KCB said they had put aside a kitty of 10 billion Kenyan shillings.
Yes.
And it was for, I think these particular industries fall under SMEs, if I'm not wrong. Okay? They was going to make it easier for people to borrow for such enterprises. You know, Eric, it isn't the first time that our so-called hidden economy, our so-called informal sector has come to the rescue. The World Bank, let me just go 20 years ago, had declared that this country was going belly up. The sort of maths they do, the indicators that they look at, it didn't. And the explanation they gave when we didn't go belly up, they said, you know, Kenya has something called the hidden economy. And they keep saying it. The hidden economy is the informal sector, the Juakali sector. It hadn't hit them that this sector was the engine. Now we know.
Yep.
But do we give it the attention and the support it deserves? Is the engine? The answer is no.
No. And clearly, right now, it's the one that's coming to our rescue.
It is.
If you look at the students at Kenyatta University, students, they have gone through training. They're just thinking, all right, so what?
What's difficult
So
about
you need
this
something that just pumps air.
Yeah.
But that's...
They understand the
Pumps air
principles.
automatically. You don't need to have an individual.
But
So
we can do that. Just fabricate this thing and get it done. Let's get it moving. It doesn't have to be very complicated.
Haven't you seen people
We can
coming
get
up
it
with
done.
small little aeroplanes that run on the engine of, say, a lawnmower or a motorbike? Haven't you seen these things?
and not in the any cushion of the capital city, for example.
No, in the rural areas.
In the rural areas, right?
Remember, when we talked about TVETs in one of our shows, and we're talking about the need to revive these technical colleges that have always been there in all parts of the country. In fact, they were in every district in this particular country. Now, that is where you generate these ideas. We laughed when there was the Nyayo 1 and Nyayo 2 vehicles. If you've ever been to the complex where this vehicle was actually being manufactured and the technology, had that technology just been improved?
If you just continue with that project.
Thank you. Just continue.
Not laugh it off.
Just continue with it. Remember, that car moved, it ran, we saw it. What other things have we been able to do but we've just let slip?
Yep.
Because, one, if you're talking about conspiracy, let me throw this one at you. One of the things that imperialists do, the first thing they do is to make you doubt your own ability and your capability.
Or even the existence of it.
And then the next step, they make you value whatever they have and they make you value it as being superior to yours, even when it isn't. For instance, if you look at our social structures, Africans, this is one of the things that is actually being affected right now by the COVID-19. It is a beautiful structure. this social structure that ensures that every member of society has a chance and is able to be looked after. It's one that has been dismantled very methodically over time, and we have been very active participants in this process of dismantling it. And we've decided to follow some of the social norms of the West without looking closely and asking, how exactly has it worked for them?
Yeah.
It hasn't worked very well for them. Not really. Case in point, looking after the elderly. Simple. These are the people who, without whom you wouldn't be who you are where you are.
Yep.
Then suddenly they need your help, and what do?
Put them in a home.
You ship them in a supermarket where other old people hang out. Human beings don't thrive that well. Why do our old people thrive well? They have young people around them, meaning they are part and parcel of a vibrant live society. Yes, it isn't a death sentence for the old. But they'll explain it and say, an old people's home, you do this, you do this. Somebody was responsible for looking after you. That is how you look after them. When it comes to your turn now, you feel that, no, let me just pay money, let some professional. How can a professional look after your parent better than you?
Better than you.
Now, I'm saying this because my view of old people's home has never been positive.
I can clearly see that. It's evident.
That is evidence.
Yeah, and with good reason. Now, if you live in a society where you shun the importance of the elderly, you will be able to commit atrocities like the ones we're reading. You remove ventilators from people who are above a certain age and give it to young because they're more important. Since when was human life determined and the value of it determined by someone's age? Since when? Human life has always been human life. Why do you think we have lifers who keep arguing and talking about conception?
And when it actually begins.
Why?
Right.
So suddenly, when somebody has lived and their life is predominantly ripe, you then feel that this life is not important. You're talking about societal changes. Well, I'm saying societal norms that have existed coming to the fore, and you can decide for yourself whether it's positive or negative.
What's going to change?
What's going to change, for instance, burial rights in a country such as ours? I come from a community where death is celebrated because there's an understanding that this life that was lived has come to an end. So people must be given an opportunity to remember it in its fullest and what this person did and what they meant and what they summed up. Now, you bury someone at night, you've killed it. You don't even give people time to mourn. You've killed it. You don't even bury him in a coffin. You bury him in a body bag and at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Let's talk about the impact, because that has serious cultural impact. I mean, even for the Muslims, now they're being told no washing of the body.
Yes.
And that also means a lot.
Oh, it means a great deal.
Because at that washing of the body, it has its significance.
It first hit our brothers of the Muslim community was with the Ebola. You couldn't touch the body.
You don't touch.
The problem is when somebody just cuts short a societal norm that you've been with, my friend, it also brings with it trauma.
Yeah.
It brings with it trauma. You can imagine the families and all of that.
29 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is a situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a look at traffic, and then the conversation continues. Remember, you can join in this conversation 0719 012 600 or Facebook Spice FM KE, Twitter at Spice FM KE, or Instagram Spice FM KE. Good morning.
There is none. Not now, and likely to be the same for a while to come. Through the day today is Easter Monday again, and no traffic on many of the roads which we see today. Anything that you do see pop up, let us know. Spice FM KE is how you reach us on Twitter, or I'll give you the number 0719 012 600.
Should go check some of those roadblocks at some point, right? And find out whether they actually people are trying to pass. Roadblocks leading out of the Nairobi metropolitan or into.
Whether people are trying to pass or they're just passing.
Yeah, or whether they're just passing. And the cops are just like, okay, happy Easter.
Unakuja,
Carry on.
Salimiana.
Could be the case, man.
We'll check that out shortly. Good morning.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Guidelines affecting righteousness and
Mornings.
ritual of Tayammum, where purified sand or dust is issued instead. In both cases, the rites are performed within hours of death unless circumstances do not allow. Right? So that's already changed there. We saw the case of even a video going viral of the man who was buried in Siaya over the weekend. Buried at what time again? 2 a.m. And police were there to ensure that nobody comes from the village to attend this burial.
People still came.
And people still turned up.
Yes, and then they had to start looking for the people who had turned up.
So this is where we're talking about the changes.
These changes are profound.
How would you explain, though, the burial? Why did it have to happen at night?
Look at it this way. I think they were thinking it's actually early morning, not night. If you had it in broad daylight, how are you going to prevent people from coming? So let's have it
crowd
at an
control.
hour. It's crowd control. But it didn't work. Remember, people wake up very early in the rural areas. It's something that they had forgotten.
And news spreads quite fast.
Yes, this man has relatives and his relatives have relatives. And they know where he came from. And they took the body to where he came from. Had he been buried in Mombasa, that would have been a different matter. But the body went home. If the body is being buried at home, automatically rituals kick in.
And there, of course, there are some family members who do not agree with this whole thing of let's not have people in the burial.
No, they
so
don't.
those ones are going to leak the information.
Not only that, even to date, the biggest battle that the government could be facing is the fatalistic view that people have towards diseases. They'll tell you it's not the disease that's going to kill me, it's God who decides when I'm going to die. Now, how are you going to argue with that one?
What are you going to say that's going to counter such a thing? Well,
And they believe it.
Look, and I think this is why. Look, in this particular video that we saw, or what is said to have happened with this burial, it was the individuals who were masked in the hazmat uniforms and who then handled the body, and then
Yes.
the police were on site to make sure that they were able to maintain some kind of order,
Yes.
right, and that nobody
Yes.
came in. Now, this is probably the case with a lot more COVID deaths. It's likely to happen, right? I don't necessarily think it's going to change people's perception of how they bury.
After we are done with this, we'll come back to
Exactly.
We'll come back and
I
mourn.
think, yeah.
To
I
factory
think after
settings.
COVID, people are going to come back because this is
Actually,
something
not come back. They'll probably come back with greater vigor.
with even greater vigor because this is something that is
they'll
entrenched.
appreciate burial more.
This
They
is
will, and
entrenched in the
they'll
way people-
appreciate traditions even more.
Traditions, because what you see is a fly out of the window of many traditions now because of this. So people will come to a greater appreciation of these traditions, whether it is the tradition of marriage, whether it is the tradition of death and
Yep.
burials, whether it is the tradition of birth. You can imagine things. I'll give you an example. Like in Nigeria, for example, when a child is born, people come together. Huge celebration. How many children have been born in Nigeria in the last 1 month? Nobody's going anywhere.
No one is going.
So what do you think is going to happen
the
when
naming
COVID comes
the
to an
naming
end?
ceremony is a big deal wherever you want to look in Nigeria. So people are going to hold on to that. And when this is over, people are going to come back and say, you know what? This is something that we actually hold dear and something that should be celebrated more. So I don't see it ending. I see it being celebrated even more. Whereby other practices I do see ending. For example, if you want to look at the corporate world now, how many meetings are being held the world over virtually? And I think people are going to realize, you know what? That meeting that you called where we all had to come and sit together and share space could have been all of us in different parts doing something
Conferences, let's go to Naivasha so that
Not
all our people, we can
necessary.
bring in the people from Mombasa,
Then
the
you have
people
to
from
spend per diem and pay
Mount
people
Kenya
X amount
region.
of money.
We can all gather in one place.
We're in one place
My
essentially,
friend,
and
we-
big
we-
decisions can be made.
Some of the trainings that I conduct, we are now
Now you're doing
conducting them.
evangelic.
Yes, we are.
Are you missing anything?
No, I am not missing a thing.
Decisions still being made?
Yes, and the audience, the class is still there.
Voila.
And they can respond. And by the way,
But in this one, CT, don't you see it happening also with the same way you've described our traditions coming back after COVID-19 and appreciating that coming together?
No. In this
And
way-
saying-
actually, the use of technology in communication is going to get greater prominence.
Exactly.
Just
We
in
already
that.
have companies who are saying now, really? this thing can work like this.
Saves our cost
This
so
is
much.
what we are absolutely. It saves us cost. It saves us time. People sitting in traffic for 2 hours to get to a meeting and then 2 hours to come back.
Yep.
Half the workday is gone. Whereas you can sit where you are and we can have a meeting. What do you want to say?
Just
You want to
because
see my face?
the technology
It's okay.
is in,
Let's spend that money on making sure that the
The
technology
technology.
is up to par. That's what you need. And in this case, I see what's abandoning a lot of the practices
And
that
then
have been
people will
used
be
over
hit
time.
with bugs and realize, no. When you're doing these virtual meetings, our information is being leaked to our competitors.
That's why you pay for cybersecurity.
actually the
That's
truth
why you
is,
have companies who are
all
vested
those,
in things
all
like
those things will
cybersecurity.
happen. You'll have a day when that thing isn't working because it rained something
Yeah.
and something fell on the other. But it'll help you make the systems even stronger.
Even stronger.
Again,
Absolutely.
It's a system that I have seen work where you realize, as you said correctly, this traveling from one end of the country to the other wastes time.
Too much.
Why don't we just find a central place where people just have to move, so like 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers to that central place?
And that's it.
It's a once in a week. It's a once a week meeting. Put a screen, whatever size screen. Put the technology,
And we
you
move.
have a meeting.
We talked about this last week. Presidents, not chief officer. Presidents. Everybody was in their
AU
corner.
leaders.
AU had a meeting. They agreed. And that information was channeled to the rest of the continent. Abi, you didn't hear about it. You heard
An
about
action,
it, didn't
an
you?
action has been taken now
Yes,
following that
And no
meeting.
one moved.
Yeah, nobody moved. Everybody was in their country. So who are we not?
Flight,
No,
entourage.
Spend
no,
money,
no,
entourage
no,
of
no,
100
no,
people,
per
all of them
diem.
earning
No,
per diem,
no.
living in hotel, this, that, the
That
other
one
thing.
chief is going.
Is going. That one is
That
going.
one.
Because
How
the realization has
unfortunate.
come. You can
And
actually
also,
do your
this
job.
parliament where people feel that they need to meet, had they gone technical and digital,
These ones have refused.
precisely,
These MPs have refused to do virtual.
they
No.
don't. But it's going to catch up with them.
It's coming.
This one.
This
We
one.
must debate face to face.
No.
Do you know what's going to happen? The Senate seems to be more proactive than they are. If the Senate has a system and they realize that there are many meetings, yes, you do need to meet face to face, but you don't have to meet face to face all the time.
All the time.
I do see another situation though where people didn't meet face to face, and then this is forcing them to actually meet face to face and have a communication, in place, and that's in families, whereby individuals would run away from each other all the time, and you find another place to be. Now you have
Now
to
you're
be
locked
in your
in
home.
together.
You have to talk to each other. Whereas you saw individuals who were suffering because the communication channels in their home had been broken down completely.
You weren't repaired.
And they could escape. This one, you repaired by fire, by force. But you know what? You repaired and you could find out that you could be the better for it. And I see, better put together individuals so that you go then from to a larger unit of the family, to then a larger unit of the community, to a larger unit of the society. And then you have better functioning individuals walking around to attend these virtual meetings. I see that happening too.
Aye.
She
At
has
what
a-
price?
No.
At what cost?
No,
Cost.
but I don't think there's really a cost to it in the sense that the cost is whatever nonsense you had in your hand, you had
Before.
previously.
It's now out.
Because it's not somebody's house you're living. It's the same house you live in. It's just that you are an infrequent visitor. Now,
Children are asking, Connie,
who's this guy?
daddy anaishi huku siku hizi?
Wanaongea kikwao.
you suddenly find, my goodness, the children have become tall. Mm-hmm. They've been tall all along.
They've been here, my
They've
friend.
been growing.
They've been growing all along. It's just you who hasn't been there to understand and to observe these things. You start finding many things which are strange. I said, does this belong to us?
But at the same time, we saw stories coming out of China that people were filing for divorce because of sitting together and realizing, well, you know what?
We actually are not compatible.
Yeah, we are not compatible. What we've been doing is we've been living together, but living our separate lives. And that also gives me a moment to breathe. Now we're being forced to stay together constantly for
realize
these
that you
24 hours,
actually
and you're
don't
like,
want to.
really, this
Which
thing
is not
can't work.
necessarily a bad thing. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, because then you realize that, this marriage is not supposed to be. But again, the opportunity...
It's breaking families.
No, but breaking families on what? On what basis?
Yeah.
Realizing that you were not compatible.
Or is it bringing to the fore
Or bringing to the fore reality.
breaking that had existed all
that
along,
existed
but had
all-
been
yeah.
You know,
denied.
there's some things that are better kept hidden.
Like what?
Like that.
Oh, but,
No, but then you continue to suffer.
If it's not, if it's not working, and then you're,
Eric
you're
has a
living like
point.
that, and your kids, your children are living, they still believe that I have a mother and a father who live in this house. I don't see this man often.
Yeah.
He comes late, he leaves early, but on weekends sometimes, he takes us there, he buys us some lunch and pizza, then brings us home, then he's off for a meeting in the afternoon. he comes the next weekend is when we're going to see him. Maybe he'll take us for football in the morning and then he'll go for a meeting in the afternoon. At least kids are still seeing their parents. But now you're becoming clear. We are divorced.
By the way, I was listening to a program on BBC and they were talking about the concept of open secrets and how it is that people manage secrets within organizations, within families, among friends, and why it is that some secrets are considered open. Now, the thing that caught my attention was this particular nuance. And they were saying that, there are things societally people will not want to speak about. For instance, the molestations that many priests have actually burdened young boys with.
Yeah.
Why? Because the parents are vested in the church.
Right.
So anything that brings the church into disrepute, they, more than anybody else, will fight it.
Yeah, they want to protect what they have.
So if the church says we'll settle it out of court, they're willing to accept it. But does it resolve the issue of the trauma that the children have gone through? The answer is no. So it's an open secret that people do, but nobody is willing to come out, either societally, because you can be ostracized for speaking the truth. You can be blacklisted for simply saying the thing that everybody knows but they don't want to say. Now, this thing about divorce is considered to be a solution to a problem in relationships. I actually have a completely contrary view to it. Because what essentially you're being told is that marriage should be one long, happy undertaking. It's not. It can't be.
You're living with a stranger, man.
No, two different. I mean, think about it, the things that bring you together, and think about how often the differences you actually have are even discussed. What people discuss when they think of marriage is how similar they are.
Yeah.
And the differences are just as important. Now, the so-called tiffs that arise, that is now when the differences are being evened out and being brought out. Marriages which work are marriages that have overcome these differences. But if your solution is, since we can't get along, let us part, you will never grow.
You'll keep parting with people.
You'll keep parting. You'll move from one to the other to the other to the other. Just become a serial monogamist. You won't have grown. Growth as human beings, unfortunately, is embedded in this overcoming of difficult situations. That's how it is.
Tough it out.
You tough it out and figure out how you're going to work with it. And you'll be amazed at how you look at things very differently once you've toughed it out.
Oh, there you go.
You run away from it, it's unresolved.
And I think this is going to bring to the fore a lot of those. I believe that people are going to start having real conversations about things now because of the fact that they're forced to be in the same space, whether you like it or not. Even if you lock yourself in a room for the 12 hours that you're mandated to work, you're going to come out at some point. And you're not going anywhere anyway. So you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to figure it out and have those conversations.
We
and
have
I think
a spike in domestic violence and then it's going to even out.
I think so. I think now we're seeing a lot more than that. I think that the domestic violence spike that we are seeing now is because it's a lot of it is being reported. Doesn't mean that it didn't exist. I think it did. Now you just see a lot more of it because people are in the same space for a longer period of time. The women and the girls who are being beaten, it's not the first time. It didn't start with COVID-19. It just means that now, for a longer period of time, the perpetrator is in the same space as them. So the likelihood of it to increase is more. But it doesn't mean it started.
Initially, maybe there are some cases where it was emotional abuse. Now it's gone into physical.
It's gotten to physical because you're in the same space.
It was emotional, move, go away for 2 days, come back, treat the person as badly as you wish. Now you're there with them. And it's manifesting itself in emotion plus physical abuse.
This one is forcing people to grow up. Because you may have abrogated duties and functions that are actually yours, and you didn't give yourself time to think about it, so you assumed it was okay.
Say that again, CT.
You had abrogated duties that were actually your forte and the mandate given to you. Now you're being forced to reconsider it and understand that they're yours, because there's no way you can go. You can't run away from those responsibilities. So you have to grow up.
It's 10 minutes to 8. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Online, mobile, and on radio. Facebook at Spice FM KE. Spice up your life.
Responsibilities are now. All that thing is coming home to.
They've abrogated it for the longest time. They're like politicians. They thought that you solve family problems by throwing money at it. And sometimes not throwing anything at it.
Or talking at it.
Or issuing edicts at it. Now, I'm afraid all that has changed. Because you make a decision, you are there to live with that decision you've made. So you'll think a little harder before you make a decision and even issue an edict. You know, internationally, if you want to understand how terrible this thing is, let's look at the US, for instance. When you've closed universities and schools, you have farmers, and then you have large-scale farmers who had, say, for contracts with, say, universities, schools, because they provide food, school lunches and stuff like that. So now, where do you think all this produce is going? The milk, what have you? In the US, farmers are being actually forced to pour out their milk. Again, they have to manage and show you how to pour it on the ground. There's produce that they used to dump just to regularize the markets, which brings me to the issue of this maize that we keep being told is imported. Do we really pay for this maize, or is it maize that is given to us free of charge? And then someone tells us we're paying for it. Because there are countries that can give us maize for free. Not bad maize, it's not rotting, there's no aflatoxin. It's just maize they don't need.
They don't need
maize.
They overproduced it.
Maybe they just say you just pay for the transport kind of thing.
Yeah, they want to dump it anyway. Dumping means they take it and throw it into the sea.
Into
That's
the
what
sea.
it means.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think? Remember these trade agreements that Russia, China has always had with the US. A lot of it revolves around wheat. Believe it or not. America has a very robust, what do I call it, farming system, and they produce well. And that's why they're able to do this. China has many people they produce, but not as much as the Americans have been able to do. Now, the question you're asking is what sort of changes? If this farming has been in that family and it's a family business, and now you have to cut down, you have to do all sorts of things, you've invested in technology, you've done all sorts of things, you're going to have to think of how you're going to diversify and do things that you would ordinarily never have thought of doing. Bezos is this gentleman who owns
Amazon.
Yes. They have a competitor called Alibaba. Alibaba wasn't always there. It's one of these pandemics in Southeast Asia that forced people to be quarantined that made Alibaba become what it is. They are a serious competitor. And if you look at Southeast Asia, the tigers, and one of the things that was affected for a while but bounced back was their commerce. Why? They had been online for a long time. These pandemics they've been having forced them to understand we have to find a different way of doing business.
That there must be a way that people can still buy and sell even
Yes.
if they're not in close proximity with each other.
If you look at the architecture of, say, something like Japan, because many parts of Japan are earthquake prone, the architects have long found ways of creating buildings that can actually move with the earthquake. The quake moves, the building also moves, so it doesn't crack, it doesn't crumble. Now, if you take that example, there's a lot of good that will come out of it, but it also means there are many things that we have done that we have considered good that we'll realize maybe are not very useful in this time. But that is the reality of such a pandemic. Historically, these pandemics have caused civilizations to crumble. So you can imagine what changes that were socially, psychologically, administratively, politically. Someone like Napoleon, one of the colonies of France was Haiti. They had very many slaves. As usually, there were more slaves in this one than there were Frenchmen. So they rioted. Now, they wanted independence. Of course, Napoleon sent the Armada and sent his people. What won the Haitians their independence was not their numbers. No, it was disease. Because the natives had an immune system that was accustomed.
That was robust.
Yes, very robust.
And wiped out their colonizers.
The colonizers had a problem. The army, those who lived there, the
They were
systems
fine.
could cope. The soldiers who came in, man, they were dying without even being shot or even being harmed by one individual, simply because of the disease factor. So when you're talking about disease and what it changes, history has documented very, very clearly what they have done over time. But this one here in the information age, the one thing that it's done, it has halted globalization.
It has. This one is the one that has stopped.
To what
everything.
extent, though? To what extent has it halted this globalization?
If you look
People
at
are looking inward.
Yes.
We're getting towards an isolationist way of doing things.
So everybody
country
will
to
want
country.
this
Everybody's
thing
doing
of
things for themselves.
making China the manufacturer of the world.
They can be if they want, but people are
Importing.
going to manufacture themselves.
People are manufacturing for themselves.
People will develop that
they're
capacity
going to develop
Absolutely.
and protect
And
it.
globalization is the absolute opposite. To say that we as a country here, as a block of nations, we need
This is what we are
X, Y,
good
Z,
at.
so let's get it from somewhere else.
Yeah, and
they
focus
can
on
be
what
the
we can
global
do.
supplier for this. But in this case, people are looking inward.
They're saying no.
And saying no.
We can also do it.
We can do it
But
here.
will it have an impact, a negative impact?
You have to balance it somewhere.
on the development of human beings.
How do you mean exactly?
Because look, when you go back into that state where each one of us is focusing on doing everything internally, then we have our weaknesses and we'll never improve on our weaknesses.
No,
and then we'll divert our attention from what we are good at.
Very true. Economists argued that, and that's what brought forth specialization and then sub-specializations and so forth. And the argument is a valid one. But let's take it a step further. You can do the same thing in your own economy. Remember, what will not have been unglobalized is information. We will know what's happening elsewhere. So the improvements you're talking about required human interactions at a personal, individual level.
Yeah.
But with communication, that interaction will still be there. So if you're talking about benchmarking and improving, yes, even if you localize, you will still be able to improve. You will still be able to benchmark. Now, instead of letting someone manufacture, you'll say, why don't you come and do it here?
Come and open up that factory
Come and
here.
do it here. Yes. So that our people benefit, we learn from it. So in X number of years, we can do it ourselves. No, don't manufacture. You bring it here, do it for us here. We have the raw material anyway. We've been giving it to you anyway. So it'll be cheaper. Instead of transporting it to you, bring it here. We will do it here.
We'll do it here. And there will be that which you'll get for yourself. Look, I don't think there's everything. It's not possible for you to be able to do everything for yourself. I don't think that, because because of the kind of world that we live in, you're going to have to depend on someone else. However, I do agree with that in the sense that, you're going to have a lot more people now claiming rights on then what you're able to manufacture that they want to use. For example, you're going to want those rights to apply to some kind of state sovereignty.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. You're going to say, yeah, well, okay, in the past, we've had to come and get it from you and then bring it in. But in this case, we have the environment already. So you come get it done and then you may leave and then you continue with it.
There'll be some serious
You think the rest of the
bargaining
world is going to be willing to let China control what is produced in the world? The answer is no. Because they realize, what? We went and gave this country powers.
It didn't
Everything.
take long. It
Yes.
didn't take long. Already we have some countries pulling.
No.
We have some companies as we speak already pulling out of China in terms of the operations because they realize it can be done elsewhere. One of the big ones already is Samsung. Samsung has said, you know what, it's all right. We don't need to actually. We realize
crossover back to South Korea.
we don't actually
You can
have to
even,
do
you can
this
even
here.
work elsewhere.
We can work elsewhere. We don't have to do this here. Already we have IKEA pulling out of Sweden, and it's now the Dutch part that was primarily operational in Sweden is now moving to the Netherlands, now taking that out and moving to the US, thinking seriously about moving to South Africa. So you can imagine things are moving and saying, okay, well, can we buy off? Like CT says, is it money that we're looking for? The money is there. We buy it off and bring it here. That thing that we've been looking for, that we have to come to you, bring it here. So it's domiciled here. We'll deal with it from here.
And the owners of technology will refuse.
You know something?
They'll pull a hard bargain and say,
They can
right,
pull
now.
us hard
They
a
can
bargain.
pull, but they're also going to realize at the end of the day they need the customer.
Eric, didn't the Chinese show us how that works?
They need the customer at the
They'll
end of the
steal
day.
the technology.
No,
They need the
they'll just
customer.
they don't steal, they just improve it. So the improved version is now theirs.
By the time they come to you with a hard bargain, the realization for themselves also that they need the customer.
Otherwise
That's
they
why
wouldn't
they
even
started.
bargain.
Otherwise, they would not bargain.
They wouldn't even talk to you.
If they didn't need the customer, stay.
Make it cheaper to
It
produce.
is true, Eric, but you just bear in mind, just pause for a single second. Why did barter trade thrive for as long as it did? It was that understanding that you can't produce everything,
Yeah.
and somebody else has.
Somebody else
So
has.
go get what you
so-
can get.
Yes.
And
the
I'll
current
give
trade
you this
systems
for
we have
your-
in the
this.
world was just an improvement on the barter system.
Yeah.
That's why currencies were brought in.
Coming back to the top of the hour, CT, what's today's proverb?
Today's proverb is knowledge without wisdom is like water in the sand.
Knowledge without wisdom is like water.
If you have knowledge
In the
and
sand.
there's no wisdom to accompany it, it's like water in the sand. Not useful.
Sips in, sits under the
That's
the
it.
surface.
It's gone, and you even wonder whether it actually existed. If you have a resource, and the wisdom is in ensuring that everybody benefits from it, if it doesn't, it is useless. It is useless.
This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Join us for the conversation in the next hour. 0719 012 600. Good morning. It's 8 o'clock.
Spice
still
up your
the same
life.
thing here. I don't know what's going on, but that accident that happened on the Southern Bypass, still the vehicles have not been moved. I guess everybody really is on holiday today. Approach with caution if you happen to be in that neck of the woods. Eastern Bypass, for some reason, somebody is on the roads this morning going somewhere. Fares have hiked, is what you're telling us this morning. So this is the case. This is what is going to happen probably as we continue in this COVID journey. Anything you see out of the ordinary or anything, incidents or accidents, do let us know. Spice FMKE on Twitter, or give us a call on 0719 012 600.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In sharing the burden occasioned by the present global health pandemic over the duration of the global crisis and commencing immediately, my administration has offered a voluntary reduction in salaries of the senior ranks of the national executive as follows: the president and deputy president, 80%, cabinet secretaries, 30%, chief administrative secretaries, 30%, principal secretaries,
3 minutes after 8. So the president voluntarily took an 80% pay cut. Voluntarily. Cabinet secretary voluntarily, and principal secretaries and chief administrative secretaries. And now we know the Speaker of the National Assembly, Speaker of the Senate, governors voluntarily took a pay cut on a number that, they sat back and decided this is how
sound
much.
Convinced that they volunteered.
No, they make it sound like it's out of our kind heart.
The goodness of their hearts.
The goodness of my heart that I volunteered to give you, poor people, 80% of my pay. Come on. This is a salary that we pay you to do some work, all right? We are going through tough times. And I think it should be that we sit down and decide. This is where we are at as a country. How much money do we have in the coffers? How much money do we need to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic? Where shall we get the money from? And cut it back from there. So anyway, members of parliament have been asked by the president to also consider some voluntary reduction of their pay. And some of them are saying, no, this thing will not make much of a difference, really, if I take a pay cut. It will not help COVID-19. Anyway, I'm contributing in my personal capacity in my constituency. Leader of the minority in the House, the chairman of ODM, John Mbadi, is quoted in the Standard this morning saying, I'm already contributing in Suba South. A cut should be left to individual members to decide. He argues that his salary cuts may not do so much because some members are mobilizing funds for food donations for their constituents.
What exactly is he saying?
He's saying,
Interpret
because
that for me.
I am already, I don't have to get my salary deducted at the Parliamentary Service Commission.
Okay.
I'm already, in my Suba constituency, I'm already changiering people.
I'm
what?
doing let's give an example.
I'm giving money.
You're giving money for weddings. They said zero. It's not happening.
No.
You're giving money for
For funerals.
funerals. They said no funerals.
Now,
you're giving money for school fees. Children are not in school. So where is this money that you're contributing?
Now
I don't
we're giving
understand.
money
And
so
bear
that
in
we can
mind,
feed people in Suba South. The people who need, we have identified them, and I'm buying some unga, some
Identified
sukari,
them.
some rice for them.
Eric, the poor are always with us. People know those people who are poor and who are in need. You don't need to identify them. They are known. They are known. So and so was widowed. So and so this happened. So and so. They are known.
They should stop it. This thing they're doing, they should stop it.
Because of the kindness
they're
of...
hoodwinking Kenyans to think that there's somebody somewhere that you're feeding or that you're doing with your money. So you're coming to tell us that 10% or whatever percent that you don't see how it's going to make a big difference. They always say a drop of water may be insignificant on its own, but many drops of water together can form a river, lake, or an ocean.
Read again from this story in the Standard, right? How much would it save, and what would that money do?
If 410 MPs, I even know it off head. I read it this morning, but I memorized it. If 460 MPs were to donate 10,
29 million.
If
plus.
they were just to remove 10%, they would have 29.5 million shillings every month. And then you're coming to tell me that
This
you don't
is
think it
enough
would
to
be a
do
big
what?
deal?
Assuming that a face mask costs 200 bob, how many face masks?
Assuming that the face masks cost 200 bob at retail.
At retail.
If you went to the source and you had the money, it would cost you even 50 bob.
Yes. If you went to Ngilu and gave her this money,
And told her,
she'd give you
manufacture for
many
me.
more.
Those would be 1.4 million masks.
1.4 million at 200 bob.
Yes.
Anything less than that, you're increasing the number.
Yes. Now, are you telling me 1.4 million masks is
It won't
insignificant?
help much.
You're telling me that's
according to the
insignificant.
MPs.
It really doesn't
1.4
mean
million
anything.
masks. How can
Yeah.
it be insignificant?
It won't help much according to the MPs. It doesn't go a long way.
You know,
And this is only 10%.
That's
and who
just
said,
10%.
Who says they should give a 10%? Look, MPs have not been working for the last month.
But they're being paid.
They're being paid.
Of course, they're being paid.
They have been on leave. They haven't been working. This is the time when they're being called to go to Parliament this afternoon, and only 53 of them
are saying
will
they
go
can
to
make it
Parliament.
because they're for fear of virus fears.
The Parliament can only accommodate 53 of them. And we are not even sure that they are going to have that quorum of 53, because the Speaker of the National Assembly has told them, if you'd like to attend this sitting, please get in touch with me. Maybe only 20 will get in touch with the Speaker and appear in Parliament this afternoon. But let's assume 53 people go to Parliament this afternoon. The rest, what will they be doing? Will they be saying that they're working?
Working where, doing what?
So why are we paying them at the end of this month?
This is the question, and you're asking yourself that this is not a matter of working from home, because had you been working from home, you'd have been able to open your mouth and say, you know what, actually, guys, we have a duty to fulfill as members of parliament in this country, duly elected by the people of Kenya. So we say, you know what, we can't come into the chamber because of whatever reason. Is it possible that you have a special sitting? Because I know for a fact that the laws of parliament allow certain situations whereby it's called extraordinary sitting of parliament can be called upon. Now, using technology will fall along the lines of extraordinary sitting of parliament.
Yep.
It is very possible. All the time people are jumping around, Zoom meeting here, back and forth, that you call it at any kind of whim. It can happen for parliament as well. I said presidents of countries got together over technology to have a vital meeting where certain things came about as a result of that meeting. Then you want to sit down here and tell me, because of fear, we can't go into the house and this, that, the other thing. We have to sit at home. And they're paying you. Are you not ashamed of yourselves?
No.
The country is on its knees,
They're
literally.
not ashamed.
There are people who cannot eat. People have lost their jobs. And we're not talking about something that happened 5 months ago. 3 weeks ago, enter COVID. A week later, job losses. People already sitting at home. People came off a flight. I'll give you an example. Kenya Airways. People landed from a flight and they were told, go
This is
home.
it. You
For
are
the
going
next 2
on
weeks,
unpaid leave.
No question, no comma, no debate.
No discussion.
And these are the people that you have put into power who are telling you my contribution will not make any kind of significant
this
change.
is now
Stop it.
our servants talking
Stop
back
it.
at us.
Yeah.
These are the people that you have
Our
hired to
servants are
do the
giving
job
us lip.
coming to tell you, actually, I don't think I can do it.
We-
Think about it like this. You're right, CT. Think about your nanny, which for me is a glorified position. I think the person who is coming and taking care of your children and your home in a position, in a time when you are unable to.
It's an important person.
That's an important person. Now, you have given the responsibility of running or making laws for a country to this person. You are taxed so this person can be paid. And then they're coming to tell you,
give you a lip.
actually, you know what? I really can't do it.
Sorry,
I
I'm
don't
I'm
think
already
so.
contributing in my constituency.
In
Get
short,
outta here.
this one I'm not going to do.
Get out of
I'm
here.
contributing in my constituency. The tone, and I was very critical of that, the tone from the president was wrong.
It
saying
should
that
not
I
have
have
been
voluntarily taken.
So you should
Mr.
also-
President, you don't even need the 20%. I keep repeating this. We keep this man. He lives in State House. He doesn't need to drive around. Stay there in State House. We'll pay the bills. We'll pay. What do you need? Internet connectivity? We'll pay.
Yeah.
Everything, we will sort it out. You don't need 100% pay. You don't need an 80% pay cut. You don't need a 20% pay. You don't need any. So you, first of all,
Just
sit.
sit down.
All these other MPs,
The
you have not been
The
working.
deputy has similar privileges.
Same. Presidency.
Yes.
Nyeri, stay there. We are sorting you out. Everything. You are living in our house. You are driving our cars. When you
You're
need to
eating
drive,
our food.
you're eating our food. Everything that you're doing is from us. So sit. Zero. That money is gone. Let's take it. Now let's come and talk about our members of parliament and our parliamentarians. You've been at home. Only 53 of you can come to parliament at any one time.
And even that, they're even begging you.
You haven't come to parliament anyway.
It's like you're wooing a young girl who doesn't, she just, I'll buy you this.
Even
What
if
are
you're
you talking
sitting,
about?
so let's look at how much we can. We decide
They're even begging
what
you.
pay cut we're giving you. 80% now for MPs. 80% pay cut. That's what I say as a taxpayer. 80%.
You're telling
We take it
actually-
down to all civil servants. We are cutting costs everywhere. We are raising taxes so that we can run a government. You know what we want to do with our taxes? We want our taxes to go to the health system. We want our taxes to be able to buy masks, to buy
We want
beds,
to be able to hire more health workers.
to hire more health workers, to do all these things, to keep our government running until December at least. Now, everybody who works
to be
in
able
this
to
country,
feed the vulnerable in this society.
Everybody who
to be able
draws
to
a
feed
salary in
those
this
who've already
country,
lost
take
their
a pay cut.
jobs. This is what we're talking about. And we're not talking about some kind of violin playing, tear inducing kind of soliloquy here. We're talking about the raw, hard truth facts of what is really going on in this country. You can't sit here and then come and tell people, actually, I don't think it's going to make a difference. You can't be so myopic in your view about where the country is going, or in this case, not going, and where it's not moving. Something needs to be done. And I'm telling you, here, your leaders are showing you what they really think about you, what they really think about their job. Believe them. Believe them. They're not acting in this case. They're not trying to say, no, they are telling you the truth. How they really regard the people that they have been elected to lead. How they really regard the state of the country. How they really regard the development of the country. This is what they think. Because it is in times of crisis and conflict, it is in those times that the people need a government to be truthful and honest and really, really show their concern about how it should be led. It is in these times that you see the truth of a government.
Remember
Not
all
when
these
things are
statements-
hunky-dory and
remember
rosy.
all these statements politicians keep pointing in our direction and spewing at us about working for the people, ensuring that there's development, progress, and all these interesting adjectives. Okay. Those lies are a bit tired, but even those we don't hear. Then when we hear them, we hear this. I don't think for the slightest moment our leaders actually believe they are servants of the people. They don't. They know we are their servants.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, no. I don't even think servants is... You know, when you're a servant, you actually have some rights. We are actually their slaves. We do what they like, how they like, and they can maneuver us, and they can lie to us when they see fit. They can tell us anything they like because they know and believe we will believe.
we will take it.
Yes, they throw everything. You see, they open their mouths, they're throwing words at a problem. Whereas what you need is a solution.
Ndindinyoro?
Before we go to Ndindinyoro,
Okay.
let's go to karaoke.
Oh, karaoke.
Yes, in Nakuru. Karaoke, good morning.
Good morning to you guys. How are you, Duka and City?
Good,
We're
thanks.
We're fine, karaoke.
Yeah, of course, I'm happy to see you contributing towards this bill. Towards this contribution. But what I can say is that I don't think even the president is genuine. I'll agree with you, Eric. One, let's forget about the president a little bit, but talk about the MPs. MPs, I think they are right by refusing to contribute because they know they are contributing to the same guys they steal our money with. So I'm sure they are not sure where their money will end. They will be stolen as they do together. So that's the reason maybe to why they are refusing even their 80% cut, as the president is saying. And 2 number 2, the president is not even genuine in what he is saying. You know, and I've been saying it, he has been tough in talking. But when it comes to action, in fact, he is zero. We agree on that. And on the other hand, you know, leaders are known during the time of crisis. But in this time, I don't think any of our leaders fall into this category. Leaders are made sometimes, leaders are born, and on the other hand, leaders appear in times of crisis.
Karaoke, when you say zero, what do you mean?
That guy is zero, my friend. He's been talking tough ever since we elected him. And I've been saying it every now and then. Now you can see how he's talking tough, but wait for any action to be taken. You wonder later on when you go maybe investigating and find that nothing was done. He doesn't want it to be heard by Kenyans that he's saying that and this and that. That's the issue of our current president.
Let me give an example, Karaoke. If the president, say, talks to his minister for interior, do you expect to see the president at roadblocks stopping cars? Or if he talks to his minister of health and says certain things must be done, must you see him giving out face masks and these space suits for things to actually happen?
Please, Eric, can you...
No, this is CT.
Can you repeat the question, my friend?
I am saying, if the president, say, for instance, gives instructions to his minister for interior, all right, who's in charge of the police, do we need to see the president himself at roadblocks, making sure that cars are actually doing what they're supposed to see, or should the people whom he has given those jobs do their jobs?
And what happens when those people don't do their jobs, CT?
Can we go back to this? Remember, there's a law that is governing the ministers when they start working.
Yes.
Whether they were given an order or not, isn't it?
They take an oath on office, I think, of office.
Of course, they take that oath of office, isn't it?
Yes.
And when the president has said it, it doesn't mean that they are just about to do it, because they have the law. Remember, if I take you back a little bit, the late Michuki, when he went back to the transport ministry, he just told them, we don't need to come up with orders or any other law apart from the law that is already laid there to governing the transport ministry. Remember that?
Yep.
So in this case, we don't need the minister to be ordered. Rather, there is a law that governs his ministry, isn't it?
Yep. Just do the job.
That's what it is. So therefore, if at all he has said something that is within the law, unless he talks about emergency, and then he imposes that, failure to which that's a mere talk and just to be heard by Kenyans.
Good point, Karaoke.
That's what I can say.
Good
Yeah?
point. Good point.
Thank you.
Dixon in Oyugis, good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Good
We're fine,
morning.
Thank you.
I also want to contribute to that conversation.
Yes, go ahead.
Number one, MPs have not lived to what we voted them for. Like now, they are not even talking about coronavirus. They have decided to hide themselves. Number two, their expenditure has been reduced because we don't have funerals now, which they used to spend money on.
Exactly.
They don't even give us handouts. There is no traveling now. There is also no social gathering. So the amount of money which they ought to have used is now being kept by them. Therefore, my suggestion is MPs should now contribute more than 50% of their salaries towards facilitating the necessary things to help us to reduce COVID-19.
Yes.
Thank you.
I agree with you, Dick, actually,
thank
but I want to amend something that you've said. That they should
Yes.
contribute. No, it's not them contributing. It is us taking.
In fact, they should be ordered.
Yes. That,
You know,
thank
they are
Yeah.
our servants and we're the ones who pay them. Eh?
That is why I said they should be ordered that their pay cut has been done to 50%. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dick.
Thank you.
Join the conversation 0719-012-600. Also join the conversation on Facebook, Spice FM KE, Twitter, Spice FM KE, Instagram, Spice FM KE. What we're discussing this morning is The amount of pay cuts that we have seen in the private sector, and then let's go to our public sector, and we are seeing only voluntary pay cuts. And in the case of MPs, they're saying, well, that will not even make a big difference because, I mean, only 29 million shillings if we did a 10% pay cut. We are the employers of MPs. As Eric Latif this morning, I'm saying as an employer, as a taxpayer, MPs should have an 80% pay cut going forward, and all public servants should have some certain degree of pay cut, going even down to 5%. But everybody must contribute towards fighting COVID-19. That's my thinking. 20 minutes past 8. Good morning.
Nairobi mostly cloudy this morning. Chances of rain quite heavy and thunderstorms in the afternoon. Highs of 24 and lows of 16. Nakuru at 18 degrees. It's going to be mostly cloudy through the day. Rain already forecasted for Nakuru. Nyeri is mostly cloudy at 18 degrees. Scattered thunderstorms predicted for the afternoon. Highs of 23 and lows of 16. It's mostly cloudy in Eldoret at 16 degrees. Highs of 23 and lows of 14. Likely to be a wet day there as well. In Kisumu, it's mostly cloudy at 21 degrees. Chance of thunderstorms in the afternoon. Highs of 27 and lows of 20. It's 27 degrees in Malindi and mostly cloudy through the day. Highs of 31. Mombasa 27 degrees is cloudy already. Chances of showers through the day. Highs of 31 and lows of 26. Taking a look then into Kampala, and it's cloudy today. Showers expected in the afternoon with highs of 25 and lows of 19. Showers already recorded in Dar es Salaam at 26 degrees. Thunderstorms to follow with highs of 28 and lows of 24. In Joburg at 14 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 14 today, and mostly sunny conditions. And finally in Lagos at 28 degrees, showers expected in the afternoon, highs of 34 and lows of 26.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
23 minutes after 9. Good morning. This is A Situation with Kenya's biggest
Mature, intelligent talk every morning.
Enoch,
Spice up your...
Kiambu. Good morning, Enoch.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Niko salama kabisa. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Good morning, Munga.
Good morning, my brother. How are you today?
Very well. Du, how are you?
I am fine, thank you. How are you, Enoch?
Very well.
Fantastic.
For the first time, I want to agree with Mr. Muga. Ideally, you see the money, it has been deducted is when you believe. I think this about cutting is just a lie. It happened that I found myself working someplace where we are doing this housing scheme, the big four agenda, and one of it is housing.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, December, we were called by the housing secretary, and we are to be given a communication which we have to pass to the population that the government is not building any houses.
Mm.
Theirs is to avail a conducive environment for the private developers to do that.
Yep.
But all along the song is, we are building houses, we are doing this. So for me, where I see it, the president is not serious on any of the things. Most of his statements, they are to open citizens. There's nothing really much he do.
It's much of talk without action.
It's much talk without action, actually. There is nothing really actually doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Enoch. And for
That's
your
my take on that.
Asante sana for your contribution this morning. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. You can also post your comments on Facebook and Twitter. Spice FMKE. Daniel in Mushada, good morning.
Good morning, Latif.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you. Now, I wanted to contribute about the pay cut for our members of parliament.
Yes.
And to extend it even to the private sector, because I'm in private sector myself.
Right.
I think everyone can contribute. We have the directive that was given of this pay being reduced to 25%.
Yes.
25%, yes, will go back to our pockets. But then private sector can contribute to the extent that now that contribution, because there are so many people who are above, let's say, the gross of 100 and above.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're earning 100 and above, and there's no pay cut that you're being forced to have in your organization, then the relief you're getting of 5% from the payee, you can extend it as a contribution to COVID-19.
To COVID-19.
Yes.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you for that.
Okay, Chin Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
We're fine, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I'd wish to submit a few opinions about the topic.
Mm-hmm.
To begin with, I am always not sure if they really mean when they say they'll have a pay cut until we are able to see a gazette notice. I don't know. I think they sign some documents, but they should gazette it. The same way they gazette all public salaries. So if somebody volunteers for a pay cut, I think it should be gazetted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then we'll know that surely it will
then
be
this
cut.
is for real.
But it is for real. Because as at now, I think if it is cut, it may as well be a legal issue. There was no legal procedure into it. Yeah.
To allow the public service or the parliamentary service
but
to
even
actually
before
take a pay
going to
cut.
the legality of it, it's still at the point of volunteer. Who do you know is going to volunteer except for the person who wants to make sure that you're taking care of people, right? Because look at a lot of the work that we've seen happening in different parts of the country. It is individuals who have volunteered money from themselves or goods that they would go and buy in the supermarket and then are offering this up, right? But now you're asking leaders to volunteer a part of their salary, which it's the one thing that we know they fight tooth and nail for. Do we really see them volunteering unless it's not something that is insisted upon?
For the case of our leaders, especially our Kenyan leaders, you would want more because this may as well be a PR exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this situation, they would want somewhere to get credit, and this would be an opportunity. They just say, I've accepted a voluntary pay cut, but it's just a say. And that's why I think it should go beyond just a say. That is for our president and the deputy and the speakers of the assembly to be gazetted. And then the second thing, maybe the last thing, there's a book I used to read, and one of the sublime phrases I will ever recall is that the neat, orderly, and careful boy has an invariable rule, a place for everything and everything in its place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we Kenyans expect from our members of parliament certain things like handouts, and like even expecting them to have a pay cut, I think we are not putting our political system in its right place. That is not their job. And in fact, I'm surprised that there's a newspaper, I think the Standard newspaper, had that as its headlines. Why do we expect them to have a pay cut? It is in their right to use the money the way they please. I think there are better things MPs can do, which goes above having a salary pay cut.
Which they're
And
not
that is
doing.
what-
This is the problem.
Like what, for instance? These things that they can do. Like what, for instance?
MPs primarily are supposed to transfer.
No. Not what they're supposed to do. These things that you say, instead of the salary pay cut they could do, what are they?
Yes. MPs have a defined role
Yes.
that they are supposed to do constitutionally.
Yes.
Now, we've always hesitated putting them to task when it comes to that, even on matters of legislation.
Yep.
They compromise a lot. In fact, there has been a narrative that MPs only rubber stamps what they get from the executive. Now, I think if we wanted MPs to do something, is to put them into accountability. Let them go to the House and do what they're supposed to do.
That's good.
And
that's
that's
true.
all we should expect from them.
That's true. That's what we should expect from them. But also as their employers, when it comes to contributing to a national kitty, when it comes to cutting back on the expenditure, as employers, as their
demand
employers, we should demand, and in fact, we should put in place some pay cuts.
They will have very logical points to meet that.
That is
including
that shauri yao. It's not a discussion.
It's a personal
Actually, the
initiative.
Thank
thing
you.
is,
Okay,
compared to the times that we're
let me
seeing
go
now,
into this other caller. This is Mwalimu calling in from Dagoretti. Mwalimu, good morning.
How are you, sir?
Salama kabisa. How are you?
I'm very fine, doing very well here.
Uh-huh.
Following your talks, and I'm very happy about it.
What do you think?
I'm thinking in a diverse way.
Mm-hmm.
According to what I was taught by my pastor, my reverend, the spiritual fathers and all that, giving comes from the heart. There are those people who are not willing to give. There are people who give. It does not matter how little they have, they still give. There are people who have a lot, but they still don't give anything. So when you're talking about the pay cut, if it is a request, there are those who will not accept. I even don't believe the president, I also don't believe that the president, the CES, they all agreed with the pay cut. Maybe it was a demand.
Yep.
Or rather, because if I know some of them, and we know some of these people, they cannot give anything. I think they were demanded. I think it was told by the president, from this month or next month, you will not be receiving this amount of money.
Yep.
You accept or you don't, then you do what you can do. It is not easy for people to accept the pay cut.
So what should we do?
I'm thinking about, for example, a teacher like me. Maybe me, I can accept. There are others who may not accept. I'm giving us an example.
So, Mwalimu, what should we do? Let's get to the bottom of this. What is it that you're saying? Are we saying that we abandon this talk of expecting our MPs to get a pay cut, or are you saying that we allow them to choose whether to donate or not?
I'm thinking they're supposed to be left to choose, because you may think these people have money, and per se we have been reading through some of these people even take an advance. They don't have, they have nothing.
Yeah.
So you tell them to give. What are they giving anyway? I think
So it should be left to be voluntary.
It should be left to be voluntary. Then I think the suppliers of the goods, for example, the unga, sometimes I may want to give, but you see the expense. Ukienda kwa duka right now.
Mwalimu, please get to the point, because I have also Justus on the line from Mombasa.
Yeah.
Let's take Justus then. Justus, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. Are you safe?
I am safe. Are you?
Oh, thank you. I am.
Good.
I have a couple of points I want to make. One, on the topic of taking pay cut, people are doing it in the private sector at the initiation of employers.
Yeah.
It's employers who initiate pay cuts, not the employees who request pay cuts.
There you go.
In the way things flow. And therefore, in this situation, we are the employer. We are like the shareholders of this corporate called Kenya, you and I.
Yeah.
And in many ways, the president is our executive.
Yeah.
we cannot pay MPs. What happens? What happens if, in case in the next 2 months nobody pays tax? Where do we get money to pay them? So the idea of getting a pay cut, it should be something we should be actually ordered. We are going to take every civil public servant should take this level of pay cut,
right?
Because we cannot afford it. In any case, their pay comes from us, the taxpayers. We can no longer operate.
We are no longer operating.
That's very clear for me, the way I see it. So the president needs to be assertive, and I agree with you that it should not be a request. It should be an agreement across board that this level of civil servants, we are taking this pay cut not because we are feeling your generosity, but because we can't afford it.
True. Thank you very much, Justice. I want to go to a break. I think kuna makelele sana huko nyuma yako.
Yeah. Okay, let me just make a quick point on the cultural side, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes pandemics present opportunities for radical transformation in communities and society. I think we should need to begin thinking more about shifting from burial to cremation. Cremation could offer a solution to society that need to say goodbye to their loved one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, keep COVID away from the same people getting infected. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Justice. Have a good one.
Nothing really. No updates in terms of traffic. The roads are quite empty, quite clear from wherever it is that we're looking at. Most streets today abandoned because of the fact that it is a holiday, number one, and most people are at home. All right. Anything out of the ordinary is what we're asking you to let us know. But for now, it just looks like it's going to be the situation for most of the day. We'll let you know if anything else out of the ordinary pops up. Spice FMKE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter.
Everything nice, everything nice.
23 minutes to 9. What do you think?
Spice up your life.
Public servants be subjected to a pay cut. All civil servants. This includes MPs who are state officers, public officers, all civil servants. All of them be subjected to a pay cut.
What did we talk about the other day when we said, look, this is not a matter of some people and then some people can and then other people cannot. This is something that is affecting the whole country. This is something that has the potential to really, really damage everything from the economy to the health system to communities, to individuals, to individual economies across board. It has the potential to do that. You can't have some people on board and then others not on board. It was not a matter of, all right, even when you had... many private corporate companies have come out and said, yes, individuals, employees are taking a salary cut. But what was the thing that they were told? This is not an everlasting situation.
Yeah.
It is something that is going to come to its head after some time, and we'll get out of this.
And we'll reevaluate.
So reevaluate and looking, and some even have gone as far as to say that which has been cut from you will then even be given back to you over time.
Yep.
Right? Why is it that in coming together, you have people who are supposed to legislate on the behalf of the country? And one of the callers previous, and I wanted to answer to that, who said that there are certain things that they should be doing. It is not their job to volunteer. Not a single legislative initiative to cushion Kenyans has come into play by members of parliament. So even to come together and sit and say, you know what, these are some suggestions that we have, that we know the government is capable of doing, and we're insisting that it be done to make sure that Kenyans are cushioned. Even that hasn't come to the fore. those who are being asked or those whose salaries are being cut, they were not asked for their opinion. I'm going to say this again. They were not asked for their opinion, but they went into a position of understanding what the situation was and said, you know what, we're going to take one for the team. You two have been hired for Kenya. You've been hired for this country. You've been hired for the people. Why are you not able to take one for the team? This is what they're telling you, that they can't take one for the team.
And
they can't.
It's
and they won't. Not even that they can't. Because can't then brings in an issue of capability. In this case, they won't. This is an issue of willingness.
The president, going back to the head, very top, it's not the first time or the second time that the president is giving us some voluntary pay cut. He did this many times before. He said, look, because of where we are as a country, I and my government are going to take a pay cut. Right? Many people tell us, well, we are not sure whether this actually took place. Not the first time, not the second time. This is the third time that the president is telling us he's taking a pay cut. So if we just went, cumulatively, basically we are saying that the president, over time, over the last 7 years since he became president, he has taken like a 60% pay cut. Is that true? 60% of what Mwai Kibaki was earning is what Uhuru Kenyatta is earning at the end of April. Iniwong. Benjamin in Narumoru, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Welcome to the situation. We're good.
Okay. City.
Yes,
City.
good morning.
How are you, my brother?
I'm very well, and thank you very much for calling in.
Let me add on to your proverb today, eh?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yes, knowledge without wisdom is a load of books on the back of an ass, a donkey.
Right.
Thank you very much. And good day, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you. Zachary, good morning.
Oh, morning, guys.
Morning, Zachary.
Mwalimu, I'm quite good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm loving your program. Now, how is
Waithera?
Waithera is okay. She says he wants to meet grandfather Mwalimu.
Thank you very much. Yes, and please, our regards to her mother as well.
Sure, I will. Now, let me say this. Yesterday, I was watching or listening to a clip of Mr. Obama speaking in the Canadian Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
And what he said is actually what we always know and say. That if one person in a company is making money in a day that is made by the junior employee in a year, that is not a society. It is not an equal society, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Eric and the company, let me tell you, why do we keep, when there is a crisis, why do we always watch or look at the MPs and the others saying that they must cut, they must contribute from their salaries, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It is because they make a lot of money in an hour that probably the common man, the most common man in the street makes in a year or probably in 2 years.
Right.
Now, this one is not an equal society. And let me tell you, the people who decided that, or the commission that decided that an MP should be paid this, definitely there are equations that they used. What are the expenses of an MP? Do you understand? And they arrived at that. But that MP is mandated to go and also work out in Parliament. How much should our common man in the street make in a day? But he's not doing that. Instead of doing that, we see that during election time, during the campaign time, these guys come with a lot of so many 50 bobs in notes, okay? They give us with the Vuribo vote, okay? And instead of actually asking this guy, what are your policies? What are you going to do to my tax? What are you going to do to make sure that should a crisis occur, I am cushioned? Do you understand? Now, I don't see why any MP should be forced to pay or to.
So
to
what should we do?
Definitely, we should re-examine ourselves.
So
we should examine ourselves as the voters, okay?
So right now
We
we
should-
let them be, and then we re-examine ourselves for the next election.
Definitely, this is the point.
So wacha
let me tell you,
hiyo pesa wako
Mr.
nayo
Eric,
sasa wacha wakule.
let me tell you, Mr. Eric, yeah?
Yeah.
Or let me ask you a question. There was this pictures of residents of Kibera. They had a stampede, you know, gathering for money. I mean, for food. Do you understand?
Yep.
What kind? Are you proud to have such needy citizens in our midst? Okay. Are you getting me, Mr. Eric?
Good questions, and Zachary, I'd like to move on to the next caller who's been holding.
Thank
This
you,
is Trevor
thank
in Kisumu. Good morning, Trevor.
Thank you.
Morning, how are you?
We're fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. My contribution is this.
Mm-hmm.
As a country, we are already in so much trouble because of COVID that I foresee us creating a situation where we're going to have even more trouble post-COVID in this way. Kenyan MPs are very vindictive people. At the moment, they're quiet. If you want them to talk, for instance, let just SRC just come up and say, because of this COVID situation, we're thinking of flashing colors and all this and all this. They'll come up in drones and address that issue.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment, if they are pushed to deduct or to actually not deduct, they're just pushed to give a portion of their salaries, they'll have it in mind. Which means post-COVID, there will be no development coming through. Because they'll figure that they'll now start thinking of now how are we going to get back this money
To recover
that
the
we're
money.
forced to. Yeah, how are we going to recover it that because we're forced to give it to give it out. And that is now the situation whereby we're exerting them in a position whereby they are now starting to look for loopholes post-COVID to make sure they recover their money, because either way they're going to campaign for positions in another year or two.
So how do we safeguard against this?
For me, I think these are the times that you're talking before that the country is now, the world itself is now in a position to reevaluate its systems and all that. First of all, these are an opportune time to do salary reviews for all civil servants. As
Across
is,
board.
even if in the media they keep on immediately when the government said, when the president said that he's taking a voluntary pay cut.
Yeah.
The international media say that they are waiting to hear what the Kenyan MPs, and then the underlying fact was that because they are one of the heaviest paid members of parliament in the world, that statement still stands out.
Yeah.
It's never put aside. It's always that Kenyan MPs are highly remunerated for work that probably definitely they don't even deserve to be paid that much. So at the moment, okay, fine, they can volunteer to give a portion of their salaries. It could help a long way.
Yeah.
But
we need a holistic view.
Yeah, but who is at the back of it all to make sure that at the end of this, like EACC right now should be really tightening its grip on potential corruption issues and all that, so that by the time this ends, we're not put in a situation where now we're starting dealing with graft cases in their millions, because guys are now recovering what they potentially donated.
True. Thank you for raising that flag, Trevor, and thank you very much for calling in this morning.
You're welcome.
Asante sana. 13 minutes to 9 o'clock. 0719-012-600 is the number to call in and chime in on this conversation. Should we have round blanket pay cuts in the public service? Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
In sharing the burden occasioned by the present global health pandemic over the duration of the global crisis and commencing immediately, my administration has offered a voluntary reduction in salaries of the senior ranks of the national executive as follows. The president and deputy president, 80%.
In a month.
Million plus.
In a month. All right?
Million plus.
Just without a regular MP earns 710,000 shillings excluding allowances. The majority and minority leaders in the Senate and National Assembly earn 1.056 and 1.02 respectively. So majority leader earns 1.05 and minority earns 1.02 without allowances. Remember allowances: seat allowance, travel allowance, talk allowance, make a phone call allowance, think allowance.
Is there a month when those allowances don't apply?
No, of course not.
So they're part and parcel of the salary.
So 710 is the minimum, all right?
Yes.
Per month. If the lawmakers take a 10% pay cut, the 416 MPs in both houses would contribute at least 29.5 monthly to the emergency. This is 1.4 million masks if you bought masks at 20 shillings each for Kenyans hard hit by COVID-19. All right? Now, that is just if we went 10%. If we, the employers, were being sufficiently philanthropic and decided, let's have 10% pay cut for those. And I am saying that starting from the tone of the president, where he said 80%, but then the cabinet goes to 30%, which means that the governors also went to 30%, the speakers went to 30%, CASs went to 25 and 20, and PSs 10.
Let's paint some other scenarios here. If they just took a 10% pay cut, if they just took 10%, you would be able to give 3,000 shillings to vulnerable families who don't see this kind of money on a regular basis anyway. You would be able to give 3,000 shillings to 9,830 families every month. Just from that 10%.
9,000
from
families.
members of parliament alone. 9,830 families, you would be able to give them 3,000 shillings every month. Let's put that into perspective. All of these people who are talking about let there be no lockdown because we depend on hand to mouth. This is the kind of money they would normally get every month, because they're looking at about putting 250 shillings, for the 20 or so days that they would work every month, putting 250 shillings on the table every day when they come home. If they took a 10% cut, you'd be able to put that money for them on the table and ask them to stay at home.
Why are we even having
that we even have to talk about it is actually quite shameful.
Are you telling me that the number of people, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, who face famine and hunger in this country, this year is 14 million? Last year, what number was it? The year before?
Oh, yeah.
It's in the millions.
It's in the millions.
Are you telling me?
We're close to this 14 million.
Are you telling me that our members of parliament were not aware of this? What legislation did we put in place and then ensure that there was a department of government that not just mandated but was actually ensuring that these numbers were reduced? It is the same group of MPs, not a different one, who are now bringing a debate about this. Debate tells you exactly, you've said it, I'm repeating it, how they think. That we are debating it.
It's a shame.
That they are debating whether they should contribute.
A shame.
No.
This is the one opportunity where the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, Lynn Mengich, the chairperson, has the one golden opportunity. We keep talking about what opportunities are presented by COVID. This is one where she can go back and regularize or harmonize salaries, or even just...
And they can make as much noise as they like.
You just make noise and continue making
across
noise there.
You see, under ordinary circumstances, you cannot cut somebody's salary.
But these are extraordinary
These
circumstances.
are extraordinary circumstances. Yes. That means you can basically say from going forward, MPs' pay shall now move from 710,000 to 610,000 or 550 or 400 or 300.
Are they not aware of the times we're living in? why is it that these people seem to want to insist, or those who are speaking representatively are telling us that their lives should continue as normal,
whereas the
rest
rest
of the
of
country are actually going through a hard time? What manner and type and species of leader is this?
And we cannot expect any philanthropy because no MP has come out to say, you know what, I'm standing here and I'm saying I'd like the Parliamentary Service Commission to deduct 10% of my pay, or 20%, or 2%.
The only thing we did here was Ndindi Nyoro, who said, take my entire April salary, and he actually brought it out to the digit, 523,000 something after all deductions. Take my entire April salary and I contributed towards the fight against COVID.
What did he tell? He wrote to the Parliamentary Service Commission.
I don't know who. I don't know upon which platform, but it was recorded in the papers, and it was also on social media. But he said it and he made it public. Whether he now followed it up with the documentation and said, actually, you know what? Don't pay me this month. Send this money to the emergency fund.
It should not be.
It should not be an exercise in public relations either. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a discussion. The fact that we have to talk about it when people look. Let's just nitty-gritty this thing. People are going to die. People have already lost their livelihoods. People continue to die. More and more infections are taking place. There are more and more things that are needed to fight this thing. Everybody is putting a hand towards this. Whether you want to look at private sector, whether you want to look at individuals, those who've been hardest hit, the people then who are tasked with legislating for this country.
In fact, let's turn the heat.
It's not going to make a problem.
Let's move the heat away from Parliament. All right, we know what kind of people we are dealing with. Leave them alone. Let's look at Lynn Mengich, Salaries and Remuneration Commission. This is the opportunity for you to come in and actually just say, look, because of where we are at, cut salaries.
Fight me where you want to fight me.
Salaries and Remuneration Commission. This is your job. Because with SRC, it goes beyond just MPs. It goes into all the cadres of public service. People who are sitting in commissions, all these big, expensive commissions, right? They earn hefty amounts of money. They are not sitting now. They're not doing
what
any
do we
work.
need these commissions for right now?
Right now.
That's another question that's going to start coming out into the fore. These
permanent
commissions where salaries are being paid on a regular basis. For what?
Land commission. The works. For what? What do we need them for now?
They're being paid.
What?
SRC. This is the opportunity. Because this is a time when you just come and say, look, this is what we want. This is what we've done the calculations. This is, if we did a 30% pay cut across these cadres, the job groups, this and the other.
If Kenya Airways could send their people on compulsory leave and pay them 20-30%, the same can be done of government commissions.
Yes.
Especially these commissions whose functions are not relevant right
now.
Yeah.
Everybody go on compulsory leave, 30% of a salary is what you're going to get.
We will talk to you.
When this particular problem
COVID
is over.
has exited the stage.
Look, the private sector has taken the lead on this one well.
Yeah.
They're not debating with their employees.
It's not
You're
debate.
informed that your salary is being cut. And that's it. You can take it up with them if you wish, but it's going to be cut.
The most they'll offer you is counseling.
Look, salaries of any public servant comes from the wananchi. We, the wananchi, don't have money to pay taxes.
Yep.
It isn't there. So we can't afford you. So either we simply say scrap those positions, we don't need you, or take a cut. This is where you volunteer.
Because
but better still, Eric, our people, the only time they volunteer is when
they will not volunteer.
When they want to plunder and pillage.
And if you want to
when they're volunteering, they're coming to say, governors started talking about a 50% pay cut. Then they were like, wait, watch your mchezo bwana. Do you know what kind of loans we have? Do you know what kind of...
Other Kenyans who don't have jobs don't have loans.
You to borrow.
You think people in Kenya Airways don't have loans?
Or they don't have commitments?
And commitments. 70% pay cut. Why? Because they can see our planes are grounded. Here they are.
We can't move.
Some of them are still going to work. Engineers are now working on those planes. But all of them are taking a pay cut. 70%.
And here we are, and you're not sitting legislating anyway, even for the small one where they said you should come and legislate to come up with initiatives that are going to cushion Kenyans. Even that one, you're not doing anyway.
You're a senior pilot.
So what are you doing?
1 million and above in Kenya Airways. You're now 250,000.
Yeah.
And have you heard them squeaking?
No. Let's come to today's proverb again.
Knowledge without wisdom. I am taking a deep breath.
This one needs a deep breath.
Yes.
It does.
Knowledge without wisdom is like water in the sand. But let me add something. In this country, what is clear about the leaders? This Kenyan saying of akili ni mali. Hapa, akili si mali.
Si mali.
Ni upumbavu.
Upumbavu ni mali.
Inaonekana.
Akili ni hasara. It's coming up to 9 o'clock. This is a Situation Room. Good morning.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair.
At a minimum, on its way to approaching nothing. Yes, now there's nobody on the road.
You know,
I saw one car on Mombasa Road.
When there's a holiday, please remember the cars don't drive themselves. Huh?
Yeah.
So those who drive them are on holiday. So don't expect to see vehicles.
Unless there's some crazy thing that happens, and then we'd have to chalk it up to some holiday partying nonsense taking place. But for now, nothing much, guys.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So we're talking about how our public officers should look at the times where we are living and adjust accordingly. We have seen private sector adjust accordingly. We've seen employees in private sector adjust accordingly. Some have lost their jobs. They're actually not getting any form of pay this month or the last month or in the coming months. Some are taking reduced pay. And then there are those measures that were announced by the government in terms of, let's look at how we can cushion this economy. Money released by the central bank to the financial sector so that you can access loans cheaply, especially for small and micro businesses, so that they can do that. CT, what do you feel about that?
I am just thinking of the adjectives to actually use to appropriately describe these leaders, because myopic doesn't do it, short-sighted doesn't do it, self-seeking doesn't do it. I mean, you have a national crisis, you are the leader, it hasn't hit you that the people who vote you in, the people who support this lovely lifestyle you have, are in danger, as are you. And instead of contributing to a solution, a lasting solution that will actually help your people, like the Senate did, they said 200,000 from our budget, take out and do this. You're still debating with us about the harambes you contribute and all these things which are completely inconsequential. Surely, we actually do not have leaders. That really is the issue here. We have people who we thought were leaders and we elected into positions of authority, but they have shown us, not us, we didn't even need to look. They showed us. They brought it to our eyes, they danced before us, we can see it. They are not leaders. They're something else. So we must find something else for them to do. Because this leading thing, clearly...
find something else for them to do. I love it.
But we are the employers. We can give them other duties.
Lighter
duties. Yes, because this leading is clearly a problem.
This leading is a bit too much.
No, it's much. It's clearly much. After all this time, you don't hear a squeak, silence, and then when they open your mouth, you wish they would just keep quiet.
They should have just remained silent. That thing that they had said before.
Silent.
Yeah.
Okay. And talking to us about, if you're talking to us about the things you're doing for your people, tell us what these things are specifically so that we know. Tell us. You're saying you've begun this and the other you've got to do. Okay, tell us. What have you done?
But that kind of that philanthropy of theirs, I was going to call it something else. That philanthropy of theirs is what led to Matiang'i and Kibicho issuing a statement over the weekend. Because politicians are trying to score mileage out of this by taking donations and branding them with their names and putting pictures on anything. Take unga, put a photo of the MP. Take salt, put a photo of the MP and say donated by. And then you say that you're giving out. And you're telling people, come, meet at this one place so that nyinyi wote mkuje niwaongeleshe kidogo, then I give you a token of meal. This is what we saw, stampede in Kibra, and not just Kibra. We've seen this kind of stampedes in many other parts of the country. And the government decided, you know what, if you'd like to contribute, just talk to the Karugu Fund, let them organize so that the government is aware, so the government can provide security and give you proper workings of how you can give.
You know, the idea behind what we saw in Kibra, the helping people, it's difficult to find fault with an initiative that is intended for helping people. But when you look at what the MPs are now doing and other political leaders are now doing, the shamelessness of it, profiteering on the graves of your own citizenry and of your population, because that's what you're doing. You're profiteering. What utter nonsense! I mean, just when you think you'd understand, you had understood the depths to which these fellows we put in positions of leadership could sink to, they actually dig new depths. So you realize, we hadn't even scratched the surface of the depths.
We're not in there.
Yes.
We're not at the magma level. John in Nyandarua, good morning.
Yes, morning. How are you on COVID?
Good morning.
We're fine, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine. Now, I wanted to contribute on that debate. Very interesting. Because what we people have not realized is that our political positions are merely commercial. These people are there to benefit themselves. We do not have leaders. And that is why they are not serious. They are not taking this issue seriously. They do not understand that this country is now surrounded by a dynamite called COVID-19. And what the leaders, the MPs and the president should have done is to come together, come out with a policy that would take care of their people. For instance, the president should have summoned the Minister of Finance, the SRC, to come up with a policy on how to help everyone in Kenya across the board. How can this be done? If everyone, including the civil servants, get half pay cut, in fact, we can take care of every other person in this country.
Yes.
Because people are suffering. And I have said before that if the government contributes 3,000 shillings to every citizen, including to those MPs who are contributing across the board, then we can afford to have the lockout that we want in order to prevent this dynamite from exploding.
Thank you very much, John. Those are very good points.
Exactly. So next time, as a country, I think we have come to our senses, and we should look for alternative and innovative leaders.
True.
We should be serious next time.
That will be our next biggest headache. Trying to look or even convince ourselves that we need better leaders.
I think, and that would be the answer, because I asked myself over the last few minutes, I said, you know what, the answers to these questions whereby somebody is really showing you who they are, then how do we change all of this? And in democracy or whatever you want to call it, the chance that you have to do that, even if you do have certain agitation, the only way that you can do that with some kind of measured results is at the vote, is at the ballot. So it's going to be a painful wait, another 2 years to wait then to see the result of this agitation in Kenya specifically. But that is where it comes through. And I hope that people will start to see that it is at the ballots that your answers then can be heard, or that they can be measured, or any kind of result can actually then be actualized. Because we can talk about agitation, we can talk about going into the streets, but we've seen that a lobbying culture doesn't really work here. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we've had people this morning talk about, they've stopped giving us handouts, kind of what we expect. They've been quiet, kind of thing. So you want to turn this thing on its head? Change it at the vote.
Charles in Homer Bay, good morning.
Good morning to you, Eric.
Welcome to the situation.
Say hi to Eric, City, and Nduhoko.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. I want to contribute by saying this. First of all, I don't agree with the suggestion that everyone working in the public sector salaries, should be deducted, because we have people right now who are working physically contributing, like the cleaners. Let's say, for example, here in Nairobi County, they go to work and you find that a cleaner is being paid maybe 6,000. And if you want to deduct 6,000, then he needs or she needs even more than that 6,000. But we have got research companies here in Kenya that can do research and find people who are now at home. They are doing totally nothing. For example, our MPs right now are doing totally nothing. They're just there. And our Nyanza MPs and our leaders, they're waiting for Raila now to say, go and contribute money. For example, here in Nyanza, we have a very big problem in Nyanza. Not even, forget about the central. In Nyanza, we have a totally big problem. Our MPs, our leaders, the MCS, they wait for the Baba to tell them, now you can go and contribute maize, you can go and contribute this. That's what they wait. Someone cannot just stand up on his own and say, my constituents or maybe my ward needs this, let me go and do this. They think it's a crime. So I suggest, research companies can go out there and do a research. It can even take maybe a week. They will now get full details and the full data of people now sitting down doing nothing. Their salaries should be deducted at certain percentage. That is my suggestion today.
Thank you, Charles.
Good suggestion.
Asante sana. Otieno in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, 3 things. One, on MPs and contribution, I've realized that maybe we are giving them a lot of burden, and this what we have been moving the population towards the MP, whereby they believe MPs have got a lot of money that should give them as a handout. We are aware that MPs also have got employees, people who are they have employed, and these people also are paying bills, and these people are also maybe they were claiming the other side that they have got loans. These people are also human beings. So when you choose, for instance, Eric, when you choose to give someone something because he has got a problem, it is you who decide to give, not you are being forced or you are being coerced because so and so voted for you, so you must have in return you give out money. It is a choice, and that's the nature of human beings. For the president to decide that he was to be cut around 80%, that was his choice, and nobody, I think, forced him. Even if maybe it was a PR or not, but 80% was a good thing. He
So,
can't
Otieno,
cut 100%.
are you saying so we should leave it? We should leave it as them to make individual choices.
We should leave the MP to make, for example, even on a private sector, let me give you on a private sector, they are cutting this thing, the money, not to give to the COVID, but they are cutting because of their personal businesses.
It's because they can't afford to pay for long.
Oh yeah, of course, that's the point.
Now,
not that they are assisting on COVID.
Can we as taxpayers afford to retain a huge workforce?
Oh, that is now debatable. At one point, you employ
How exactly is it debatable?
You want now?
My brother, how is it debatable?
My point is,
yes,
chasing them away that now you don't need them. Maybe you stop them now, but promise them that if things goes on well, we will repay you your previous money. 2 more things. Number 2 is please discuss something about Tanzania. Why is it that it is not the number is not so much high despite absence of lockdown and closure of schools and churches? And number last, what has Italians and maybe the European done that Kenyans and maybe other African countries have not done, that they are dying like hens in comparison to these African countries? Please assist me on that. Thank you.
We'll keep discussing that. We discuss it quite often on the show, but we'll revisit it at some point during the conversation. Let's take a short break and take a look at weather, right? There's weather. There's no traffic, but there's weather.
There's weather, right, okay.
Right. Right. So you take a short break, discuss that, and then you come back. Join the conversation. Facebook, Spice FM KE. Twitter, at Spice FM KE, at Eric Latif, at CT Muga, at Nduoko. Or you can call in 0719-012-600 should we have blanket pay cuts across all civil servants. Basically, looking as taxpayers, looking at how much it's costing us to run this government and the kind of depressed incomes that everybody is having, can we really maintain it? Or should we have some pay cuts, starting with those elected leaders who are now at home, who are practically doing nothing? Good morning.
All right, mostly cloudy in Nairobi. Chance of rain quite high later on, highs of 24 and lows of 16. In Nakuru, it's 19 degrees and mostly cloudy. Rains expected in the afternoon, highs of 24 and lows of 15. It's 19 degrees in Nyeri and thunderstorms expected scattering through the town later on, highs of 23 and lows of 16. Eldoret at 18 degrees will be mostly cloudy. Showers expected later with highs of 23 and lows of 14. It's cloudy in Kisumu at 23 degrees. Showers expected later, highs of 27 and lows of 20. 28 degrees and partly cloudy in Malindi. Through the day, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Mostly cloudy in Mombasa at 27 degrees, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Take a look into East Africa. Kampala at 21 degrees is cloudy. Showers expected later, highs of 25 and lows of 19. Still quite cloudy in Dar es Salaam. Showers in some parts of the city will continue later on with highs of 28 and lows of 24. In Joburg at 16 degrees is mostly sunny. Through the day, highs of 24 and lows of 14. And finally in Lagos at 28 degrees. Clear skies through most of the day. An entrant of rains early in the evening, highs of 34 and lows of 25.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
My proposal is that all civil servants should also be ordered to take a pay cut, and let that order be taken seriously. But let the
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Because of what they're doing currently in fighting this COVID-19. Becky Odhiambo Mududa, I now feel the impact of condoning and not calling out leaders on grand corruption for years, poor healthcare system, and lack of social protection. This is what we are getting. Willis says, this is a conversation that party leaders should be persuading their MPs to have, and not the nobody can stop reggae nonsense.
Well, that's interesting, talking about seeing the effects of condoning bad leadership or irresponsible leadership and not talking about it until things get really thick. And, you know, they don't expect, look, bad leaders don't ever expect, or when they see that nobody's calling them out, that will be the MO. They don't ever expect that somebody would start tomorrow. It would be shocking to them if somebody started calling them out at some point, where the practice has always been that nobody says anything.
They're mheshimiwa.
Yeah. So, I mean...
nobody asked them anything.
Nobody's
And
asking
you know, we
anything. And in this
participated
case,
in this,
100% CT.
It's our making.
100% by never saying anything in the very beginning, when it all started. Not saying, not doing, and you know, a lot of times people think that the only way you come against something is by speaking out, right? But you can actually allow something by keeping quiet.
Let's take this call. Robert in Nakuru, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Okay, now I see it's like we're asking our MPs to do something which is a bit hard. They are not used to doing these good things. And you know, once you take one step forward for doing something, not faking it. We see them faking them in the churches, in these harambes, they fake things because they gain something out of it.
Yep.
But now for once, you are taught to do something out of purely good heart. And once you do that, there's no going back. I think they are struggling with that. Doing something which is good. No, you're not going to gain anything by, giving so much because everyone is giving actually. But now when it comes to giving in a personal way, in a rally, something, at least maybe you are going to gain some popularity. But now for once, you're asking them to give out of pure heart, just like anyone else.
They're not used to this at all.
They are not used to doing this. We are just asking them to be good. Maybe they are afraid of becoming good.
They're afraid of who they'll become.
Becoming somebody who is a good person.
Thank you, Robert. Duncan in Kajiado, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. Good morning, Do.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bwana Whitehair.
Look for it.
It's coming.
Look for it. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. Now, I've been listening to you guys since 6 a.m. And I did want to contribute, but now I've been forced to. And it's because I think COVID is also making us realize that we are always putting bad leaders in office. And it's high time Kenyans took to their foot and decided what is best for their own interest. Because for other countries, they are digging into their own reserves and giving back to the citizens. And for instance, I'll give you Hong Kong. Yesterday I was listening to the BBC, and they were saying each person was being given $1,300 per household. So in Kenya, a leader will take 15 million and publicize it to Kibera that they have given out 15 million of donations. Yet they couldn't even involve the government, said that we are taking a donation to Kibera, so help us, and then we see how we can distribute it.
Yep.
But what is more frightening for us Kenyans is the fact that people contribute to the taxes, but right now the government is giving us a blind eye. So yes.
It seems, Duncan, that you've really hit that realization. It's come full circle.
Yes, and it's coming full throttle for all of us because. In Kajiado, I'll be honest with you, our governor is missing in action. Yes, he has been missing in action for the last 1 month since these whole things started. And we keep realizing right now we need to have this wake-up call. And I think people have been doing it on social media. It's only that people are talking on social media, but when it comes to the ballot, they won't put the same thoughts they were putting on social media. So it's high time we decided and then put thoughtful leaders that are leaders and not just leaders who are popping reggae.
Thank you, Duncan.
Yes.
Just as in Mombasa, you're back.
Yeah, thank you. I want to make a quick point. I think one of the things we have realized that things are not normal. These are hard times to spend. Now, let's make this thing very, very, very personal. Many of the guys we have in government have side hustles. They have their own companies, their own businesses, and a number of them are lawyers.
Yeah.
I know for a fact many law firms have laid off associates. Some of them were paid like 30% last month. In many of those firms, some of them owned by the same MPs. right? Why don't we make this campaign very personal? Let's ask them. We know what they own, what the businesses they run. Are they running them full time?
Yeah.
Are they paying their employees full salary?
Good one.
And if they can do that, then we don't touch their salary.
There
But
you
if
go.
they have, yes, you get what I mean.
I think that's
Can we
brilliant.
Make this thing very personal.
Yeah.
Many of them, we know the businesses they own. The prominent ones, they are professionals. We know the companies they do. And I can tell you for a fact, down here in Mombasa and Kilifi, many of the law firms, many of the engineering firms, and you had private schools are being closed. Those are young Kenyans who have been depending hand to mouth. Ile mshahara ya mwezi ndio wanakula na inaenda 30%. Some of them were given 30% last month. Some of them I actually don't even know how they are going to pay their rent. Why don't the same MPs, the same leaders, the same people in government who are claiming that they have so many difficulties, let them tell Kenyans in their own businesses whether they're keeping the employees 100%.
Justus, thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good point there.
I think it's a brilliant point, actually. I think it's a brilliant point. If they have not done any cuts, if they've made any cuts for their personal employees, and they've not cut back in any way, shape, or form, and are going the extra mile to make sure that people keep afloat, then okay.
You know, when the governor of Bomet passed away, it was a huge funeral. People went, but I followed up on the aftermath and some of the things that when the husband of the late governor was interviewed, one of the things he mentioned was that it's interesting that there were many promises that were made by very prominent people in this country. And once the funeral was over, they vanished with the promises they made. It was in the papers, and I read it. Yeah. And I thought, hey, I mean, you know, the process we are discussing here, this situation that we're discussing, it's worse than COVID-19. If it were a disease, it is worse. Because we can point at the MPs, and rightfully so, but you cannot point to any political leader in this country and not point at yourself as a citizen. We participate in this nonsense. We participate in this rot.
We allow them to do this.
Yes, we don't.
You almost endorse it.
But no, not almost.
Yeah.
If you call out a member of parliament, a leader in your community, the first thing you're labeled is anti your community.
Oh, yeah.
You're a sellout. You've sold out to some other community and to some other party. Immediately, that's what you're seen as. And all you're doing is calling out the guy and saying, you know something, this is what you said you're going to do and you're doing.
It's not what you said.
You call out your governor and call them out for their ineptitude. You'll be told you have been given money by X party to come and mess up this thing. Now, we've taken it as a norm, and it's something that people...
You're working for the opposition.
Precisely. You find an entire senator coming out and speaking and talking some negative language that he shouldn't even utter or even think against one particular community. And it's considered okay. Now, when you allow these things, and over time, they gain momentum, they become the norm. That's why you'll find civil servants who feel, why should our salaries be cut? You want to ask, do you actually live in this country and do you see what's happening? These aren't normal times. The suffering, the 14 million we talked about, it's going to increase. It will not remain at 14 million. No. It will increase because of this.
You know, first of all, the minimum wage in the country is around 11,000, 12,000.
So we are told.
Yeah. So basically, no civil servant earns less than 12,000.
Yes.
No.
Across all cadres.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if we came up with a percentage of a pay cut, say the lowest earning, already you're not paying payee. That was removed from your pay, right? Because you're under 24,000. You're not paying payee. But also at the same time, we say that take a 2% pay cut. It's all right, 2%. Go increasing that threshold all the way up to the president 100%.
Through
because
grades, yeah.
I still insist that the president should take 100% pay cut. MPs 80%. Speakers.
Presidency.
The presidency, yes. President and his deputy 80%, because we're housing them. We are feeding them. 100%. MPs take 80%. You're not working anyway. You're on unpaid leave. Stay at home. How much money would be able to save in terms of our recurrent expenditure every month on paying salaries? That money can go into feeding people who are in need. People who do not have even that 12,000 shillings as a salary end of this month. And there are many. There are many people who are earning salary. They are no longer earning. There are many people who have had a 70% pay cut on a 24,000 shilling salary.
So you can imagine what
you can imagine what they're getting now.
Yeah.
Right? All those people, then we can put this money into plus what we are contributing as, corporates and individuals and all that goes into the kitty for helping with COVID-19. That can go a long way.
It really can. And you know this thing we talk about, you can do a little bit by yourself and so much more and further when you go together, because what it does is that with this kind of attitude, it almost nullifies everything else. That you have a group of individuals who really, in terms of representation of the people, they represent the people. They are the ones who move the country forward by what they put into action that represents the people. And I'm going to say it again. They're showing you their regard for the people.
Please see it.
See it. They are showing you really what they think of you. You don't have to ask anybody to interpret what this means. You don't have to ask anybody to say, okay, so by them not giving money, how does it directly relate? It is 100% clear. It is a direct representation of how they really take Kenyans. Please open your eyes. This is it. This is how they truly feel. The people that you put in, the people that you elected, this is how they're showing you.
In your genuine hour of need.
This is what they're showing you.
This is what they're telling you. They're telling you, you need to continue feeding me.
And I'm giving none of it back.
I know you're hungry, but I don't care.
It's not my problem.
You need to continue feeding me. You're sleeping hungry. I don't know. You need to continue. Because this person who's sleeping hungry, when they go to buy something from the market, they are paying taxes by consuming. And that tax goes to pay this particular person. And it's telling you, I don't really care. Sleep hungry 3 days a week.
And you're not seeing any individual from that class of leadership coming out to speak against it. Because when it comes to this, they seem fairly united.
No, this is one matter where they are all together.
Yes.
All together.
You know, this
just like when they come together to talk about Jubilee. And the new moves in Jubilee to try and, fight who and the other. It's 9:30. Good morning.
Okay, hasn't really changed much. Most people, yes, we know, at home, not traversing the city, so traffic is going to be like this. Might change tomorrow, though, and we're likely to see it just this way. Spice FM KE, again, if something happens out of the ordinary, if something that you see that we need to alert people about, don't hesitate to let us know, and we'll spread the word.
Traffic. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
012-600, that's 0719, 012-600. All the comments that are coming on to social media as well, Facebook, YouTube.
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
And MPs have basically, by their actions, you shall know them by their deeds. And their deeds are here. They are saying that because they are doing some, small-time contributions in their constituencies, they are feeding people here and there, one or two, they cannot take a pay cut. It will not make a difference anyway. It's just, it's a little money.
It would be my hope. And I can understand that if you would say that I would be living in an ideal situation for a few moments, but let me go there. Whereby we see after this, we go towards, we leave individual or people-centered politics behind and go to a place whereby structural, system-oriented governance comes into play. Because if you want to look at other countries around the world, the issue doesn't come in where individuals are asking questions, this, that, the other thing. When they're talking about, we had the example of pay being given to individuals around the world. If a system was not in place that actually functioned, it would be impossible to do such things. So we're not asking questions now about what does this particular individual think. It is a system that's in place. It's a structure that is in place. You as an individual who has been given the opportunity to govern and lead, you plug into that system. You do your job for the time or the term that you've been asked to serve. You come and go. The next person comes in and moves the country forward by virtue of the fact that the system is working. So this is another change that I see, that it will be now about ideologies. It'll be about systems. It'll be about structure. It's no longer going to be about an individual and what they do, say, or have. It's going to be about the structure and how we want to keep the country moving. And I'm hoping that we will see individuals having been booted out by the fact that they realize, because the person with the power, which the person with the vote, realizes what they have done or not done in the past. And we're going to move from people-centered politics and we're going to move towards structural governance. It's about time.
It's about time.
It's about time.
Daniel in Nyeri, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Welcome to the situation.
I'd like to... Okay, thank you. I would like to echo actually the point that the lady has just put across. Because you'll remember, I think end of last year, we had the tragedy in West Pokot, the flooding, then the landslide, and then we had the locust things. But what did the disaster management say? It will take about 6 months for monies to be found to actually do something about it. And as much as you have said, the structures should be in place. If the government put something aside in the disaster management kitty, we wouldn't be in a point where we are looking at our MPs to make a contribution.
Exactly.
Because let's say, in case you had your own money, somebody will add to what you have to enable you to do to take part in whatever situation you wanted to overcome. But if there is no money, you're asking people who, if I can quote Kimunya, he said the defiance of not leaving office after even doing what he had done at that time, Babowino shooting this guy point blank, and he's still in government, and he's still earning that salary at home, probably polishing his another gun or something. So you see, now this is the thing: the government didn't have systems in place to. And even the hunger that we are seeing, the government is yet to respond to it. COVID, this one will just be something they'll use to talk, and then 2022 will come, and then remind us that, you see, here in Nyeri, I put my face on the sanitizer, and we went on with it. A pastor put in her face on, is she planning to run? You see now when the guy, minority leader, is saying that we are doing something community-based. That's why he's looking at. The nation can go to hell, but what huko Suba, those are, they are seeing body everywhere.
What do you think you can do to make your life better?
At the vote. Simply at the vote. Because we'll rant on Twitter. We'll rant on Twitter and do all of that, but if the middle class still put their legs up in the election, they say it's too early, no, it's too cold, no, those things have been, nothing changes. I'm telling you, these people who have been micromanaged by their MPs, you see my MP here every day. They're the same people who will vote these people out in, and us middle class will be there again ranting on Twitter, and then actually this cycle will just continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Asante sana for your call. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. More and more comments also coming in on social media handles. There's somebody who's saying, look, the Standard headline is talking about the MPs being traitors. There has been total lack of leadership from the MPs since the coronavirus outbreak. Not a single legislative initiative to cushion Kenyans, no slashing of their hefty salaries, and as the disease wipes out jobs and businesses, Kenyans are truly on their own. And somebody saying, no, we have been on our own for the past 7 solid years. Now we will all be alone even more. No more income, nobody cares. All they're doing is PR and ending unnecessary sermons. Even congregants can't be the ignorant of the Lord. Why are they even pretending to be godly, by the way? I'm tired.
He isn't tired enough.
Not yet.
You know, revolutions don't mean you go around burning things. No, it means changing the way you think. When you change the way you think, you will change the way you behave. This nonsense of always thinking that there's some mheshimiwa who's going to solve your problem, stop it. Because you're realizing these fellows haven't come to you and you're alive. You're surviving. How do you think you're doing it? If you've been doing it, you can continue doing it. So why go back to factory settings when the coronavirus is over and you still go back to the mheshimiwa? Do you really think you'll change it? Nothing will change. Essentially, nothing will have moved and we'll have learned absolutely nothing. Yes. The problem is this. It's not with this generation who are working and are alive. It's the legacy you're going to leave for your children. Now, 2018 was marked, what do you remember 2018 for is the end of the First World War, or moving towards the end of the First World War. But something significant happened on this continent. And it wasn't the Spanish flu that came in. That
1918.
1918.
Yeah.
1918. What happened was this. The first steps towards apartheid were actually taken. What they did was they formed a system that separated male Africans from their families. So you certainly had a migrant labor system. It looked fine. It served your purposes. They work for you. Pay them next to nothing. They built the country. The country became excellent. But the dividing of the families was to have social consequences that they are beginning to see. They see now fully. But in between, what happened? Because of this division, certain social and sexual behaviors were formed. Now, you know the aftermath of this, or what it brought about. HIV became very easy to spread in such a community. Because certain social norms had been completely broken up. Now, thankfully, when it comes to testing, the structure that had been set up for ensuring that HIV is combated can now be used in testing. Because the structures existed. The same thing they were doing in HIV, making sure you test everybody, doing the same thing, test everybody for COVID. There are consequences for these actions. Not only are they long-term, but they're long-lasting. And these leaders seem to think that there's some other country they're going to move to.
It's here, man.
Can't they see that you can't go anywhere right now? Can't they see that their survival is actually, their security is actually dependent on the social capital they have with the citizenry? And they've eroded it to the point where now we're at a deficit.
And if anything, if you were trying to get it back, this is also within the same situation or the same environment with which you should get it back. And when you have sentiments such as these that we've seen, where even taking a pay cut is absolutely impossible, that's how now you pull yourself even further away from any kind of reconciliation with the social capital of your people. That's how you do it.
You know, they are fortunate.
It's easy for you to find it's easy for you to find the balance in this one.
They still can.
They still can.
They don't realize.
Absolutely. There's always an opportunity.
People are still looking forward to being led and to have a situation when the government's actually working in their interest. They should pray that a time comes when people are not interested. Because then, all these fellows who seem to think they're having a cushy life, one, they'll stop being whatever they are. The moment that mindset is changed, believe me, there'll be a higher bar, and there'll be a demand for it, and there'll be a clamor. I thought this thing was impossible until I saw public policing in 2002. When the NNG realized, goodness, we may have a change here, they would arrest policemen themselves. They would ensure that meaning the majority of the people in this country actually want to see good done. They want to see the rule of law. Okay. It's an opportunity for the police to step up their game, not in pilfering and giving people a hard time, no, but in simply ensuring that they uphold the law
and maintaining order.
That's it, and that's something they can do with these.
So let's not postpone this thing to 2022. All right?
No,
we have COVID-19 today. We have people who need to eat today.
Yes,
we have people who have decreased incomes or even lost incomes
today,
and we have a government that is costing us today. Something needs to happen today. And I go back to the people who sat down and advised the president. They set this thing up to fail. When you tell the president to go and announce a voluntary reduction of salary,
You've got it wrong.
you have already set it up to fail. The president comes and tells us, I have volunteered to take an 80% pay cut. It's as if. And then he says, and I urge the other arms of government to do the same. As, come on. This, from the very beginning,
Not going to happen.
From the very beginning, that was failure. And unless we go back to that point and say, listen, Mr. President, yes, you have given us very good words, but no, it is not for you to decide how much you shall volunteer. As a government, as taxpayers, we tell the government, this is how much we are willing to pay for salaries.
Eric,
now you decide.
Simplified. You, Mr. President, are our servant.
Yeah.
We employ you. We elected you. And all those people who work there, we pay them.
Yep.
Please listen to your employer. This is what we're telling you.
This is what we're telling you.
Everyone listens to the employer. We are your employer. We are telling you this is what we want. We're not asking you. We are now telling you.
We're telling you.
This is what we want. And all those people who think they are our lords, please inform them that they actually work for us. Just because we pay you hefty salaries doesn't make you our lord. We pay you hefty salaries to work for us.
For us. There's a reason
but
why.
You seem to have decided to work for yourselves. So we're telling you, stop.
It's not going to happen anymore.
We want you to work for us. And you have an opportunity to actually work for us. There's a time, and it begins today.
It begins now.
I know you want to go to a break, Eric, but just look at this, for example. Look at these other countries where stimulus packages were set up for the people. We didn't hear that there was any fear or doubt that their government was going to do something for them. It was never, what are we going to do? What are we going? It never came to the fore. Maybe it happened, but we didn't hear about it. There was never any fear or doubt that whether they would be taken care of. When the government said stay home, they killed. They came to where? I'll stay home. There was no fear that they would be taken care of. Why do you think that is?
It's 9:45. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
If you take a pay cut for all MPs,
Spice FM.
Problems? Would that deal with coronavirus in the country?
This is a talk show, and it's a national talk show, and we must speak politely, but I have to ask, which part of his body is he using for thinking when he's asking that question?
Must be something, I don't know whether it is on the head.
What on earth? What sort of question is that? Is it that this pandemic is a problem, or is it something we're making up? Is it something that doesn't exist? Are people not poor in this country? People don't die in this country? A leader asking such a question tells you he's completely out of touch.
Completely.
Irreversibly out of touch with what's happening in this country.
What is happening on the globe?
No, globe is taking it far. This country. One of the things that many of these leaders don't seem to understand, they don't seem to see the changes that are coming about in the thinking of the citizenry. They think that they can sit in these jobs of theirs forever. Some of them are going to resign. Not because they want to, they're going to have to resign.
The pressure is going to be a little bit
because
too much for them.
the demand for them to explain what they're being paid for will have to be brought to the public domain for discussion. Here you have a situation where someone works for you, they're a civil servant. Fine, they have their rights, but employers also have their rights. We are invoking our rights as employers. And we're telling you, we paid you and we pay you to do this. Please do it.
Do it.
If you can't do it, then that's it. Leave. Let somebody else come and do that job.
This one is very simple. It doesn't even have any.
No.
It doesn't even have any if, buts, and maybes.
We don't want talking
here.
back. If you can't do the job, this is one of those situations where business as usual, people just talk, and don't even think. If you can't do the job, leave it. There are other people who are very willing to take up those jobs, and they'll probably do an infinitely better job than you. Stop, resign, leave.
You can imagine a situation whereby there was a demand for some kind of majority to sit in parliament, or even to have a virtual meeting where people came to sit down and legislate on issues, stimulus for the people of this country. And I'm not just talking about handouts for people, so that people can bridge between now and what is going to happen in the future concerning COVID. Even that, you can't be trusted to come and sit down and do. Your core duty to come and legislate towards development for this country, that is your core duty, your core business. And even that is difficult to do. Let's leave pay cuts aside. Let's talk about that which you have been hired to do, the job. Even that is not being done. And then you want us to pussyfoot around the issue and pat you on the back and say that you're doing something wonderful. It's about time Kenyans got annoyed and said, we can't have this anymore. You can imagine you're in a corporate organization, a private company. You come to work today, then tomorrow you don't come. Then the next day you don't come. Then the next day you show up for a couple of minutes and then you disappear. And then on top of that, you even say, don't even talk about cutting my salary. Do you expect that your boss is going to keep you around for the next week? Don't you expect they're going to come and call you and say, we need to have a sit down with you and discuss about your performance? And then in a matter of time, if you're not actually doing your job, guess what? We're going to have to ask you to go home and we're going to call in somebody to do the job. Why are we making this look like it's something totally different? It is the same scenario that is playing out here. People have, in fact, look, you have come to beg for this job. You come time and time again, you beg for this opportunity. Kenyans gave you this job, and then they pay you, and the times they see you the most is when you're demanding for them to pay you even more. And then a time when it's crunch time and the country is on its knees, it's asking you to do a certain thing and you are unable to do that.
And this certain thing is your job, by the way.
It's your job. It's not a favor that you're doing to Kenyans. It is your job. What greater opportunity do Kenyans need to see that actually this is how they think of you? This is what they see you as.
Yep.
Please, guys, believe them. Believe them when they say what they're saying right now. It's not a joke. It's not Phantom of the Opera, some kind of stage performance that they're putting up here. It's the truth. It's reality. Make a decision.
It's collectively like they've decided that we're going to be pillaging and plundering the citizens for as long as we possibly can. And when they raise issues, we throw words at them and they'll believe us. Essentially, they think we're half-wits, that we can't figure out what's going on. We don't even know what's going on. And yet we do. These are people who are actually abusing the goodwill that you have extended to them over and over. So they're not even abusing it. They're raping it. They are actually assaulting this goodwill with every opportunity they get. Now that we have a genuine problem that seems to going to be with us for some time, they are showing the same qualities. You would think
it would be different.
You would think they would pause. You would think that you would see certain things. You would think, well, it's time for you to continue thinking and thinking differently, because they're not going to come to your rescue.
This is not going to change.
No, they will not change. If you wanted to know what sort of leaders we have or the people we elected, you don't even need to look hard. All you do is just open your eyes and you will see them with great clarity. If you know what they think, just read what they say. Listen to what they say on TV and radio. They'll tell you exactly how they think, not of the country, but of you, the person who actually elected them and put them in that position. You mean next to nothing, at best.
True. Many calls are coming in now. There's Lydia in Parklands. Good morning, Lydia.
Good morning, Spice FM.
Hi, Lydia.
Hi, how are you?
Fine.
Thank you for your hard work while we are just at home without salary.
Tell me about it.
Yes. So now I wanted to say that what the president did as a first move was very good, to forfeit his 80% together with the deputy. But the parliament is a bad shame, and you have already explained it to us. It is very good. But the government should not tax food producers at all. they are the honest hard workers. They spend so much time with their cows, their goats, their fields of wheat, of maize. They should not be taxed because they are the valuable food producers to keep hunger away. So the parliament should earn less, and the farmers, food producers should not be taxed like robbers. They should be taken care of because they take care of us.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
points.
Spice FM, for your good work.
Thank you, Lydia.
Mudhoni in Thika. Good morning, Mudhoni.
Good morning, good people. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Mudhoni.
Now, you guys are talking about the parliamentarians. I mean, most people, I think everybody in Kenya knows when we're going into elections, when we are voting in, those of us who actually vote actually know that these elections are already rigged. And when we have the results coming in, who is present there at the counting, at the ballot counting, whatever? It's the returning officers and the officials from the different campaigns, the different teams, the different parties. Most people who vote in, these people in the villages and the guys in the low income, let's say the slums, because guys, I think in Karen and wherever, I don't think they actually go to vote. So most of the people who actually go to vote during elections already know that the people we're voting in are corrupt. Most of the people who are actually voting have already been bribed. So actually, we get the leaders that we asked for. So right now, with many Kenyans in the villages, in other places in Nairobi and wherever, going about their businesses, not worrying about COVID-19, it's because they understand there's nothing, the parliamentarians will never do anything to help us. And plus, they're busy, the parliamentarians are busy trying, the money they get, I think they're busy paying back the rich businessmen and rich individuals who give them money to do their campaigns. And plus, they have so many wives and so many mistresses and children in private schools. I mean, I doubt they actually ever spend any money on themselves as individuals. So when we say they reduce the pay to share it with the rest of us, they won't do it. I'm sorry.
No,
we are left at God's mercy.
You've described perfectly the luxurious lives that these leaders live. When you have many wives, you're ni raha yako. You have many children, those are the consequences of your raha. So really, these people are having a good time.
I doubt it, because when you go to the villages, most people feel that if somebody has several wives, even mistresses, that's a leader. I mean, people still have that mentality. Many people in the villages don't even vote for a woman because they feel a woman can't lead. It's only a man who can lead them. And these are women who actually see that in the villages. I mean, and majority of the population is in the rural areas. So I'm sorry, we should not be expecting anything from our parliamentarians. As for the president saying he's taking a pay cut and his officials in government are taking pay cuts, these guys already have hefty salaries. They have investments in businesses in wherever. They don't really need their salaries, so they're not doing us a favor. Most Kenyans do not understand that we're actually the employers of the president and everybody else in government. They don't understand that, and they don't understand we can actually take them to court and require them not to take any salary at all.
Thank you.
The rest of us are not going to get any pay, by the way, because we are not working in April. Hakuna mshahara. Private sector, we're not going to be paid.
Yep.
Imagine.
Thank you, Mudhoni.
Mudhoni, thank you.
So we should not be relying on these parliamentarians. Just rely on God's mercy. We do whatever we can, help each other back.
Asante. Strong points. Very strong points. Coming up to 10 o'clock. As we conclude.
You know, this is not a situation to be lost for words. This one we must find more words, and we must urge our fellow Kenyans to stop blaming their problems on other people and look to ways in which they can solve these problems themselves. If our members of parliament are a problem, we know what to do. If you feel we know what to do. Let us continue working towards ensuring that we are not dependent on handouts, you're not dependent on wild promises, you're not dependent on lies.
Do what we ought to do.
Do what you ought to do.
All right. Our proverb for the day.
Knowledge without wisdom is like water in the sand.
This is from, you said it's from where? It's from Guinea.
Guinea, yes.
Knowledge without wisdom is like water in the
Kuwa
sand.
na fahamu bila
Hekima.
Bila hekima. Yes, ni kama maji iliyomwagiliwa kwa nini? Kwa mchanga.
It's wasted water.
Yes.
So to speak. Well, thank you very much for tuning into the situation. Nduoko.
Yes.
Your parting shot.
In all of this, please remember that you must maintain social distance, sanitize, isolate, maintain.
So tomorrow the Emergency Fund will be releasing its program, the Jen Karuku one. We'll wait to hear what they say. We'll also be discussing, from what the financial institutions are doing to cushion their customers from COVID-19 and its effects.
And what their contributions as Kenyans and as Kenyan companies, public quoted or otherwise, are doing towards helping their citizens.
Join us tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.